All right, we're live. All right. Hello, everyone. Oh, wait. I don't have you on screen. I knew I forgot something technical. Anyways, hello, everyone. Today I'm here with, again, Sean, or Dancing Sean, and we're going to be talking about Better Call Saul.
Are you here with me? Am I on screen now?
No, I screwed up and I forgot to put you on screen on my
Am
end.
I on screen now?
No, I
Oh,
have to, do something. Let's see.
is
So,
it something as quick and simple, or should we start
yes.
over?
No. It's quick and simple. Once I pull up something. But while I get this technical thing done, Sean, introduce yourself. If people do not know who you are.
Hi, I'm Dancing Sean. Flint and I go way, way back. We've worked on film together, and we've been doing coverage of Better Call Saul here for the past few weeks. It's a show that we both love. I think it's one of the best shows of all time, and I'll clarify by one of the best. I mean top three. I can't emphasize how great a show this is. Um, I've been covering Game of Thrones for a long time with History of Westeros. I say Game of Thrones, but the whole world, the books and
Hmm?
everything. Check out History of Westeros, or one of the biggest podcast YouTube channels for that, and we get really deep into all the details and comparisons to the real world and clues and mysteries hidden in all the books and everything. I also did coverage for The Boys. That show's about to return. I've got a shirt on for that now. And I'm doing 1 minute videos on YouTube. You can follow me, Dancy Sean, on Twitter or YouTube. I'm doing 1 minute videos where my idea is to give you an idea of what a movie is like without spoiling it. You know, like the tone and the stars, the director, like when it came out, stuff, the genre, stuff like that, but without getting into details of the plot. Just to give you an idea if it's the type of thing that you might like. I'm trying to build a catalog of those. I don't know, probably done 25 or 30 so far. Um, anyway, I really took lessons on literature that I learned to heart and try to apply them to film. And in addition to things like character development and obviously kind of basic plot and themes and symbolism and stuff like that. But in film, you also get music and editing and performances and all these other layers to analyze and think about. And Better Call Saul is using every tool at their disposal to tell this story, and it's a very challenging and complex story, and it gives us a lot to talk about. So here we go.
Yes. So again, we're going to be covering episodes 5 and 6 of season 6. This is the final season, and we're on the first half of the final season because they're going to come after episode 7, which we're going to dive into next week. They're taking a break for until July 11th, and then they're going to come back and finish off the season. But the first episode, or I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, let me real quick preface this with a couple things. One, the whole show for anyone who maybe is just tuning in or doesn't know or hasn't been watching, the whole show is a spin-off of Breaking Bad, which is also a great show. Most people have it in their, top five all time, whatever
Mhm.
list. Which I think it's worthy of, but over time I think more great shows have come out and maybe it's slipped relatively in how good it is. And maybe some people don't relate to it as much. This guy becoming a drug lord might be a tough story for the average person to yeah, I remember the time when I had to order the execution of one of my students, uh, but um sorry, 1 second, sorry.
Yeah.
uh and the but this is, one of the characters in that show was a lawyer, kind of this fast talking criminal, not a criminal lawyer, but a criminal lawyer, Saul Goodman. And this show is sort of a flashback to before the Breaking Bad time period, where we see how that character came to be who he is, and all new characters get introduced. And some of the same characters are tied in from the original
Mhm.
show. And as it closes in, we're kind of going to see how these worlds and timelines merge. But one thing I want to point out is that we're going to be full of spoilers here. Like, in general, the show is kind of already partly spoiled plot wise because we know certain characters, what
Mhm.
happens to them in the Breaking Bad world. But we're going to get into details of how things happen, which is kind of what's more interesting to me than what happens, but the hows and whys. And I think the show is good enough that even if you do know a few plot points, you're still not going to miss out on how well they use color and how good the performances are and how perfectly the the storylines are interwoven. So part of me kind of hopes that watching this, if you haven't seen the show, even if it might spoil you a little, inspires you to watch the original show. But if you are worried about spoilers, we're decking a deep dive. We're going to give away all kinds of plot points. So be warned.
So, the after episode 7, Chris Hardwick, he does like The Walking Dead. He does like a host, and talks about The Walking Dead, called Talking Dead. But they did one for episode 7 of Better Call Saul, and they call it Talking Saul. And one of the things that the guy who plays Jimmy or Saul, his name's Bob. I can't remember his last name. Well, I don't know how to pronounce it properly.
Odenkirk. Bob Odenkirk.
Yes. He said that, and maybe it was him or the producer, executive producer, Vince. But the biggest difference between Walter and Saul is Walter, he deals with like his pride a lot, and some people can relate to that, but it's harder to relate. But Saul, his main objective is to make everyone happy, which I thought was interesting. I mean, it makes sense, but like, what's up?
Not quite to make everyone happy. To make everyone happy with him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Loved,
yes,
right?
that's it.
He's trying to make people happy so that they will like him.
Yeah, because he wants to be a likable character.
Is more wants respect from people. He kind of demands. He thinks he's worth people's respect. Saul wants to be worth people's love, and I think that is a defining difference, and maybe a easier to relate.
Exactly, because everyone wants to be appreciated, loved. I just thought that was interesting. I mean, I knew that, but like just hearing it, I don't know, it's nice, confirmation almost. But anyways, we're gonna dive into episode 5, which is called Black and Blue. And I don't know if there's like any. Well, obviously there's some significance because they use colors a lot, but like I don't know directly if there's a reason why they called it Black and Blue, other than I guess think of the boxing scene, but that would be Red and Blue, which. So I'm like, we'll get into that, but it is a cool name nonetheless. What's up?
Black and Blue. I thought about this a lot, by the way. That I thought about it a lot more before the episode than after, honestly. But I was thinking how Black and Blue usually is in terms used as a phrase describing someone who's beat up, someone who got beat black and blue, right?
That's a good point.
Which that does tie well into the boxing match. But I also thought that Black and Blue might mean especially because blue tends to represent like good guys and positive protagonists, legal, whatever that realm in the show. That maybe Black and Blue is like the dark and the hidden, and versus the good and the positive. That's maybe another spin. I remember thinking of a lot of different things it could potentially be made. Like blue maybe is the color of the sky, of daylight, of openness. Whereas black is like night and hidden and dark. So black and blue. There's a lot of ways it could be interpreted. It all could fit in one way or the other. I don't feel like after watching it, I had this like, now I get it moment.
No,
I
didn't
think it's
either.
like this perfect, obvious fit, but lots of things that can trigger trains of thought,
So they
Real quick,
Oh yeah. Go for it.
you remember Flint? Which episode was it? Are we gonna get to it in this episode when Mike and Kim first encounter each other? Or was that the last one?
That was the last one.
Was the last one?
Yes.
Okay, because here's the thing, I forgot something.
Yeah.
And
Go
I
for
feel
it.
like everyone forgot it. We're actively like rewatching it and talking about it, like making notes, studying. I'm in a couple forums where people are like going on, like trying to find clues and theories about what's going to happen and stuff. And there's lots of discussion, online, in my circle of friends, you and I, people making YouTube videos, and somehow I feel like no one caught something that I just caught. Do you remember the final scene of episode 2?
Final scene of episode. Oh, when someone it wasn't one of Mike's people following Kim, and they drive away from the Kettlemans.
Kettlemans, yes. And I had just totally forgotten that when they drive away, that a car starts up and follows them.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense now that that was one of Mike's people.
Yes.
But I just like, because the next episode goes on to like Nacho being killed. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we're getting this other slice of storyline, and such
Mm.
intense stuff happens that somehow I just forgot to make the connection when Kim went out, when Kim felt like she was being followed. We were led at first to think she first noticed it when she was with Wendy.
Right.
And Wendy was worried the cops were following her, but when Kim leaves, someone's following her. And so, like, we're thinking, are they following Kim because she was with Wendy?
Mm.
I just forgot all along that someone was already following him and Saul
Yeah.
from that second episode. But anyway, yeah, it's just something I had forgot about, realized it clicked, it makes sense. It's
I,
just another example of there's so many little things they're throwing at us, it's hard to keep up and make sense of all of it. So.
I actually put that in my notes. I just forgot to talk about it too when we passed it. Because I actually forgot that scene to also. Like, I was like, at the end, I was like, okay, they drive out. Oh, that's right. It's another car that's following, which is obviously Mike, or people. But yeah, and that's like something I noticed too, just in general. Like you say about spoilers, and if you know the ending, we know the end game goal now. Of episode 7. Watching back and seeing all the clues they just put in there, which we connected, most of them, but some of the things that there's still maybe clues that foreshadow stuff that's going to happen that hasn't happened yet. Still, let alone just catching the things that you're like, that's right. That's really interesting that they put that in there also. Which we'll just dive into.
There's something, a term that I've heard called elegant filmmaking. And the idea is that using one scene or one line or one image to fill multiple purposes.
Yes.
That makes sense? And this show does that so much. Like, generally speaking, they don't put anything in here unless it has a meaning.
Yes.
There's every single thing is there for some specific reason, and often it's there for multiple reasons. And trying to suss out all of that is a challenge. There's so much. The show is so dense with so much going on in every scene beyond just what characters are saying to each other or what they're doing, but like what they're wearing and the kind of lighting it's used. And you just got to ask yourself, each scene, like, what are they trying to show us here? Why did that person say that? Why did they say it here, not somewhere else? It seems like, I think about the scene when you see, I think it's past this episode we're on now, but when Howard and his wife are talking, and it seems like, okay, Howard and his wife aren't on good terms with each other. But also, why did they bother to show Howard warn her about Jimmy? Why did he give her a coffee and he had tea? There's all these other things that are also happening that are there for a reason. So anyway, we're going to get into some of that.
Also, going on that, like, I make films and I know that, like you said, every scene should matter. And a lot of times it's hard to do that. Like, like you watch like TV shows and you're like, I can see why they may have put it in there, but it was not necessary. When Saul just does it so well, like you realize, like, and it goes by, if you do it well, it feels like the episode goes by pretty fast too, like, because everything just seems or flows so well. Well, if you like ever are watching a show and you're like, God, this is dragging on, like, how long has this been? Only 20 minutes. It feels like an hour. Like bad pacing. They probably should be cutting things. It's really tricky. It's not easy just to do how Better Call Saul actually does their stuff, but they do it, and it's really incredible. Like, I give a lot of props on the show just on how they write stuff and how everything does matter, but it matters in the right way. Like they make it entertaining still, even if they have to put something that's like potentially, I don't want to say annoying, like, but like they have to put this in there, and they figure out, like you say, how can we make the scene, more meaningful? And they like just really dive into the those scenes, the shots even,
Yeah, they take opportunities that other shows might not take. Like sometimes you might need to have a scene just to show this person went from point A to point B, or this person had a meeting with this other person or whatever. But in this show, they will also use that scene to, show someone in the background, or to line up the timeline of two different characters, or even just like having the car they drive or the suit they wear, what color it is, or how much money it's worth or something, or like clues to how wealthy the person is, or we've talked about how this show has set up a whole sort of a color code. Like
Yeah.
blue stuff means good guys, red stuff means bad guys, yellow means uncertainty, green means protection. It's a little deeper than that, but every scene, even if what is being shown to us is just a conversation that needs to be had, is also going to use these colors. Is also going to have some extra meaning that they take full advantage. And kind of like you said, that sometimes on one hand I feel like so much is happening in an episode. I can't believe it's only been one episode, especially when like thinking back and going through them, realizing how much information was conveyed. But a lot of times as you're watching it, just like someone put their jacket on and that was the whole scene. But somehow like we could talk about that scene for 10 minutes because there was so much behind that action, where the jacket was, what color it was, there's so much they wouldn't show us someone put their jacket on if it wasn't supposed to have some deeper meaning.
Exactly.
Just putting their jacket on, And so not only can you feel like they've covered so much, you also can't believe it's over already. Both those things happen at the same time. It's really great.
Yes. So in episode 5, it starts off with, and this is like one of those things too that like, they take advantage of, is they usually always do like some very unique intro. And they just show, I don't know if it's like a trophy or some glass measuring item, but basically I think it's a measuring stick that's been surrounded or in glass. What's up? Encased? Yeah.
It's called a slide rule. It's like an engineering tool.
Okay.
It's a little outdated in modern technology, but this show's taking place 15, 20 years ago. So
but this is like, I don't know, 3 minutes, and it's just really cool looking, like how they film it. They still deal with the colors. I think the color scheme in this is blue and white. It just feels very bluish or whitish, maybe how they light and all that, but it's just a cool scene of how something's made. And
have you ever seen that show, How It's Made? Do you know that show?
No, but I've seen shows like it. I feel
it's just I don't know, it's sort of a documentary show, an educational show. They just pick different items in the world. Sometimes it might be like pencils or bubble gum or something like that, and show how it's made. They just show like the factory process, the ingredients that go in, the machines that are used and stuff like that. And that's almost like what this was. It was sort of like how it's made of this sort of. It's a little mysterious in the beginning exactly what it was.
Yeah, because you don't know you don't even realize that something's being made until you're like, okay, they're making something. Now, what are they making? Obviously, at the end of
the
segment,
a little misleading too, because we know a big part of this plot is like the meth trade. Walter White's character used his knowledge of chemistry to make meth, and a lot of the story is surrounds that. And we're seeing this sort of lab operation, these chemicals going in, this measuring device, and I was pretty sure that it wasn't meth being made.
No, I didn't either.
I didn't quite piece together what it was, but of course, eventually we know exactly what it is.
Yeah. And it says on it, and I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, but in Liebe Dune Lungs. This is a German word, so I actually don't know how to pronounce this probably, but
I wish I had it. Can you? I think I've forgotten what it was, but
I know what it means.
Being able to read it when I saw it, but it means something like.
Actually, I got the exact definition. It
from
says,
the boys with love.
With love, your boys.
Your boys, yeah.
Which obviously is referring to a group of people that felt like a family or boys. It leads pretty much to the German people who are helping construct the lab base.
Werner's wife, later we find out, she says that he called them. Werner called his crew his boys.
Yes.
And so once Werner's killed, that's sort of their tribute to him.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to stay away because of Mike/Gus's instructions under threat of death, and maybe their families too. But they still wanted to send something for his funeral. Anyway, we'll get more into that. But. And
I actually thought that was the most important thing, that word, but it's not. It is. I mean, it's important, but the most important thing that we need to see, because we see this in the intro, is made by Volkers, which is a company.
I think it was Vulcan.
Vulcan. Okay. It's Voelker. Don't know how to pronounce that properly.
Maybe it is Vulcan. Yeah, probably another German word.
Exactly. But anyways, that went over my head, by the way, the first time. But they do show it, and it comes back. But we'll get into that later because it's something that happens later in the episode. But after that, it opens up with we're going to be talking about Kim and Saul for a segment, and then go into Howard. So, and they wake up, or the scene opens up with them in bed, Kim and Saul in bed, and she is like, because this is right after she was walking away from Saul's new building. She was like suspicious, so she's like in caution mode basically, and she gets up, she looks around, she puts a chair on the door. So it's just showing how she's just trying to take extra precautions to make sure she's safe. And Saul, and she hasn't told Saul that that Lalo is alive right now, but she knows that he is. And Saul gets up and he realizes there's like a chair on the door, but he doesn't really say anything. He just understands that she's still probably paranoid from the when he originally came in. And eventually she moves the chair away from the door. I don't know if you have any thing about the scene. It's a pretty basic scene about her being cautious, and she's like being almost too obvious almost, and she's like, maybe I should hold it back. I'm not quite sure, but
I think that it's showing a couple things. One, that she is anxious and nervous, but she did decide to not tell Jimmy, probably for a couple reasons. One is think how anxious she is, and she can't sleep. If she told Jimmy, he would be going through that too. She doesn't want to do that to him. And it's maybe a little problematic because you remember earlier on that her and Jimmy made an agreement. No secrets. They're not going to keep anything from each other for any reason anymore. Part of why they got married. So that when Jimmy was mixed up in some scam or some shady thing, Kim wouldn't be beholden to testify against him. If they're married, they don't have to testify against each other, right? And I think at the time it seemed like it was like this weird moment when she proposed to get married. She was mad at him for something that he had done, and she's like, I guess it seems like they're on the cusp of breaking up, and she's like, I guess we just have to get married, and it seems so unusual, but you realize what it is that she does love him, she wants to be with him, but she doesn't want to have to keep his secrets, or be incriminated in his scams, or incriminate him in his own scam. But if they get married, that relieves a lot of that, and it also kind of opens the door for her to get more involved. And it's something we learn more about Kim and her mom, her character in general. She has this streak in her. She's drawn to Jimmy for a reason, and I think a big part of it was that she wanted to hear these stories. She wanted to know or even do some of the stuff that Jimmy was doing. Minor tangent. Point is, they agree not to lie to each other about anything anymore. And for the most part, they didn't. But Jimmy did lie to Kim when he went out to the desert and had a gun to his head, and Mike showed up and killed however many people were in that gang that ambushed him out in the desert, and they had to struggle with no water back through. Like, it was a harrowing experience that Jimmy barely survived. Almost lost his life and saw multiple people get killed right in front of him. He doesn't have to come back and tell Kim. And I think it's understandable. Even though he's promised it not to keep any secrets, I feel like it's reasonable to not tell her that, at least not right away. Right? I can see he's still processing it himself. He doesn't know how much more danger he might still be in. He doesn't know what his next step will be. He can't sleep at night. He doesn't want to put all this fear in her. Some combination of he's just worried about her psychological well-being, some part maybe he wants to keep doing what he's doing. He made a bunch of money off that. He kind of likes being mixed up in his dangerous lifestyle. It went farther than he thought, but hey, he made it. He got paid. He doesn't want Kim mad at him or talking him out of it. You can see a lot of reasons. Eventually he has to tell her because Lalo comes, basically threatening their lives. He doesn't know it, but she has a clue already because she found, and in the same bag of money he came back with his world's second best lawyer cup had a bullet hole in it, you know. So anyway, point is, he kept a secret from her at one point. Now she's keeping a secret from him. But I don't think it's because they don't trust each other per se.
No,
I think
yeah.
these secrets they're keeping are more to protect the other person.
Yeah. Now, another thing also, you know, rewatching it is, you know, and the scene comes back later where you do have to be cautious in this situation because of, you know, the events that happened in episode 7. So it's interesting that, like, I don't even know if it's like subconscious or not, but like, you have to be cautious. She should be cautious because something bad could happen here or will happen here. Like I said, it's like an underneath, you know, thing that I started thinking about. But I forgot that she is like this cautious. And when I'm rewatching it, I'm like, oh, maybe she should have kept being cautious. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. Maybe, you know, that it was a foreshadow, partial of a little foreshadow.
It's also worth noting, for the most part, we know who Mike is and we trust him.
Yes.
She doesn't.
Nope.
Some dude just said, hey, I'm having you followed. She might not like that idea. Like, in that moment, she's like, okay, I guess. But she doesn't know him really.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense, even if she does trust him, to not attack her or Jimmy. Mm-hmm. He's following her to try to find Lalo, and she knows Lalo is dangerous. And so she has multiple layers of concern here. So.
Yes. The next scene is with...
also, I got to tell you something.
Yes.
When she wakes up in the middle of the night and she looks at the clock,
the
time is, if I'm remembering this, it's 3:12. And if you look at that on its side, it spells out lie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
I thought you were about to say that, you know, in episode 7, it happens at that time too. But no, that's really cool.
Yeah, just those numbers, if you make them look like letters, they spell out lie, and that lie is keeping her up at night. So.
That's like another, like, such a detailed little thing that you may never find, but when you find it, you're like, that is, I can't believe they put that in there. That's amazing, the detail, you know.
Yeah. It's also the type of thing that you might write off or think it's just a coincidence. But they do so many things like that. There's no way they didn't decide what the time was. They could have made it 3:09 or 2:58, but no, they chose that time for a reason.
By the way, you know, if you're in film, you should know this. You have to film a scene over and over and over again. At least 3 takes. Maybe, you know, and there's multiple camera shots. They're gonna have to change that time every time. They could. Oh, it's late. You know, we'll just, you know, it's 3:12. The next scene, we'll just let it keep going. They kept doing it over and over again, and you realize, it comes back to, it's not a coincidence. Probably, you know, most likely they did that intentional, which that's just cool. Okay, so the next scene, we get introduced to Francesca, who was in a prior season. She's also in Breaking Bad, but Saul hired her to be the reception. Is that, am I correct on that? The what she actually is?
Yeah, Francesca used to be the receptionist for when Jim and Kimmy had their office together.
Yes.
When it was Wexler McGill, she was the receptionist they had then. They ended up shutting that office down, but now that Jimmy's back in business, he knows a new receptionist. So she's someone that, you know, he knows, he's got a rapport, he thinks he can trust her, so yeah.
And like she walks up, you see like there's a massive line, so, you know, people want to see Saul. And they have a couple of just funny interactions or quotes, like Saul says justice will be served in 4.5 minutes. You know, as she comes in, people are like, why is she cutting the line? Like, you just see that in their head. They don't say that. And he's like, whoa, wait, and he says that line, and then he drags her in. Some of the stuff that Saul says is just funny. It's entertaining, it's witty, and very Saul-like character. Or, you know, he says another line
very much a fast talker. You know what I mean? He wants to have like these. He wants to appeal to like grandiose ideals like liberty and justice, but also he's got to deal with the minutia of the moment. So like justice will be served in 4 minutes. You know?
Yeah. It's also coming from retail. It's like relatable. I would never say that, but like, you know, you sometimes someone tries to come in and you're like, whoa, wait, we have to be open in like at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock noon. Just deep scene. a different interpretation of that with the law. He also says a line that's, I mean, I think this was in the commercials, but it's a really good line. He's like, what Colonel Sanders is to chicken, Saul Goodman is to the law. And it's just a great quote. It's funny. He delivers it amazingly. Also, I didn't catch this until like I rewatched it. I don't know why, but Colonel Sanders, they say Colonel Sanders is to chicken. Who's the chicken guy? Gus. Yeah, Gus. I just, that went over my head because it's just a funny quote, but diving deeper into that, that's just amazing. It's like a double meaning almost. But it's it's just a fun scene, I think, with some quotable lines, and you get to know that Francesca is going to be working for Saul. I don't know if you have any more to say in that scene.
I'm going to go on a little tangent here. Something that we brought up in the past. It's become even more clear in my mind. I've thought of a couple more examples of how this works. Remember a couple seasons ago when Nacho is bringing Saul to meet Lalo. Lalo needs a lawyer. Nacho's like, I got the guy for you. I think the name of the episode might have been The Guy for This Job. And Saul's like, his business is going good. He's walking down the street. He's like talking on his little, Bluetooth. He's eating his ice cream cone. And Nacho comes rolling up beside him. He's like, get in. And Saul's like, I'm busy. Nacho's like, shows his gun. You don't really have a choice. Get in. He starts to get in, and Nacho's like, won't let him bring the ice cream. It's mint chocolate chip, this green ice cream cone. Saul drops it on the street. He goes to meet Lalo. It's kind of mixed up. This is like a kind of a key moment in Saul's story where he's really kind of linked with the cartel at this point, whether he wants to be or not. At the end of that scene with Lalo, he thinks he's got this whole plan worked out. He's going to make Lalo happy and get him what he wants. And now he's going back to Nacho, and he's like, look, I did what he wants. I'll get paid. He'll get his client, whatever. But, I just don't want to be part of this anymore. And Nacho's like, once you're in, you're in. You don't get to not be part of this anymore. That ice cream cone was green. Yeah. And green, I've brought this up a few times. I think it means something along the lines of, you can see all these words, they're all like, they have like nuanced different meanings, but they're all the same sort of sphere of like a facade. A facade is like a cover, a wall in front of something, right? A facade, something that's safe, or hidden, or protected. That's what green represents. There was a scene early on when they had one of the polio trucks. They were like took apart the panels in the floor, and underneath was a bunch of meth. The panels were green. They ended up hiding Nacho when it was a polo truck brings Nacho from Mexico back to meet When they pull Nacho out of there, it's the green panels again. Someone's hidden, or something was hidden, protected, covered. The vet's office that Saul goes to, that on the surface it's a legit vet business, but really it's a facade. It's a cover. It's a front for another business. This vet has criminal links, and it was all cast in green. So, the point is green. That ice cream cone was green, and I think that represents the sort of protection that Saul has. The facade between him, he's trying to do his lawyer thing, and he's not really tied up in this cartel business yet. Yeah. But when Nacho comes to get him, he drops that green ice cream on the floor, and it gets swarmed with red ants. And we know red is the criminality, the bad guy aspect. Nacho's car is red. Lalo's wearing a red shirt when Saul goes to meet him. So after this facade, this protection from the cartel is eaten up by red. So the next thing that we see happen when Saul goes, now that the facade is gone, now that the protection is gone, when he goes to the desert, he got swarmed by those gang members. When now, in this episode here, when it's become clear to everyone, like remember last episode, everyone around the courthouse was kind of giving Saul the cold shoulder because they realized he was mixed up with the cartel. Now his office is swarmed with criminals, just like the ice cream was swarmed with red ants. I'm telling you that ice cream scene, that green with the red ants, was very meaningful. It's another example of how they don't miss a chance to make even the most simple thing, like a dropped ice cream on the cone on the ground, has symbolic meaning.
Also, that's awesome. One of the stipulations. So Francesca's like doesn't want to do this, and Saul has to convince her. There's like another funny quote where like he's like, "I'm not doing this. I'm going to go back to the office." And he's like, "I'll give you a raise," and she's like, "Are you going to give me a raise for the can't remember the courthouse or your raise? Is going to double?" And he's like, "The lesser." He's like, "Wait. No.
Yeah. He's like, "I'll double your salary." She's like, "The salary you used to give me or the salary I'm making now?" And he's like, whichever one's less."
Yeah. but one of the things that she puts in a stipulation for, I guess, the contract to work there is, I'm remodeling. And when she remodels, the walls are green.
Yeah.
That's something because that's, I think, in the next episode where I was originally going to cover. But yeah, going back to the green that you're talking about, and he is. I mean, it makes it fits that exact thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, his office is really a facade for criminal connections.
Exactly. So we jump into the next scene, which is Kim, and so this is one of the scenes that, like, I would think that didn't mean anything until I rewatched it, and I realized this meant a lot. So she gets an ex-employee. Her name is Viola, and they talk about, like, she's just wondering how, like, the business is going. Like, she used to work for Swiker, I think it's called.
Swiker.
Yeah, and this is an employee from that, and she kind of, like, I don't want to say screw him over, but she left, pretty much unexpectedly, and a lot of stuff had to fall to other employees, and one of them was Viola. So she's just kind of seeing what's going on with them and making sure she's fine and all that. And she talks about how she's doing good, how Kim's doing good, but then she brings up a retired judge named Casimiro. Like I said, this went over my head the first time because it doesn't make any sense if you don't know the context of it for later. But that name is very important, Judge Casimiro, which you find out, she decides to use. But that was, like I said, the most important thing to know about that scene, and then they jump to okay, we didn't get to this is, I guess we'll get to the scene later. This is after the boxing scene, like
her meeting with Viola.
Yeah, like I have in my notes that Kim is standing on the patio, like outside of their apartment or whatever, and sees Saul with an ice pack on his head.
Yeah.
But you're not going to know the context until we get to that. But we'll jump to Howard. So Howard, obviously in blue, his nice blue suit. I love how they do the scene. This is a scene where he's so Aaron, one of his this is one of Cliff's employees, is doing a presentation to the retirement people about the retirement law settlement that's going to be happening, and they're basically there to answer any questions with the with the lawsuit that they're pursuing. And she's kind of getting some hard questions, and you see Howard, like, tapping his hand or his leg, which Cliff's like, "Oh, is he on doing something?" But Howard just jumps up and, like, just starts talking about like all their concerned questions, and how he handles the situation is very professional, very nice, and he, like, listens to people and pretty much gives good advice, and kind of makes it look like it's their choice, but he recommends we go this route because it's just going to benefit you. And I just love how how the scene was written, how he presents things. It shows that he, like, for one, cares, but he's also really intelligent, and, like, it's just a really well written scene. Let's see. I don't know if you have any thing to add to that. I'm gonna look at my notes really fast.
Yeah, I think that scene was partly to kind of re-inform us viewers of what's going on with the Sandpiper case. It's something that's been, like, in the background for multiple seasons. And I think it also shows kind of like another thing the scene with Kim did. It shows with the scene with Kim and with this scene with Howard that they sort of have respect of their peers. That the other people that they have worked with or are still working with have a lot of respect for them. They have a lot of competence, integrity, and so on. You see that Howard is good at his job, if you will. He's being he's intelligent and honest and a good speaker. He's well rounded. But at the same time, we also see the seed of suspicion that is in Cliff about Howard with the
Yes.
tapping knee. You know, the anxiousness he has because part of the big picture of what Jimmy and Kim are trying to do is make it look like Howard is on drugs. They
Hmm.
planted coke, or it wasn't even really coke, but a little bag of baking soda in his locker that Cliff saw. And Cliff is good friends with Howard. Howard is an upstanding guy, so it's hard for him to swallow, but it is just another clue. It's just for us to see that Jimmy and Kim's plan is working. It's making Cliff at least a little suspicious.
Yes. Um, he says a couple of things too, Howard. So in general, when you like deal with lawsuits and all that, people could be considered greedy, like they're just trying to get all the bucks. But how he phrases it, he's like, it's not because we're greedy, it's because it's what you deserve. Like he always leads back to them, saying, this is beneficial to you. Maybe it's beneficial to us, but it's really beneficial to you people.
Yeah,
And
I think that is another thing that's worth clarifying. I think another issue some people have with Howard is that they think that he's on some level screwing these people over. And let's just say that, well, okay, so what he's doing is normal. It's the normal standard thing. Now, maybe the normal standard thing is screwing people over, right? Lawyers don't have the best reputation. But what he's doing isn't some weird, crazy thing. Everyone else involved in his case fully expects this course of action.
Exactly.
It's not some weird, crazy thing that Howard is doing. And a lot of people think, and even Jimmy and Kim kind of justify in their mind the idea that these people are kind of old, making them wait longer for a little more money might not be worth it. That a slightly lower amount of money more immediately is more valuable to them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably at least something to that argument, but I just want to clarify that these people aren't living in a hospice. They're not on death's doorstep.
Exactly.
Remember that Irene was like, I don't need a wheelchair. I can walk, And remember that Jimmy went mall walking with them when he was trying to finagle this case in the first place.
Yep.
These people have years left in their life. They're not like about to die next week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond all that, Howard also is thinking of the bigger legal precedent.
Yep.
He, in his mind, now maybe he shouldn't do this. Maybe the people in his case don't want this, but he is being honest and upfront about it.
Yes.
His idea is that by making Sandpiper pay more money for treating their clients inappropriately, it means in future legal cases that other entities like Sandpiper will also have a more severe punishment. They may not even do something like this in the first place if the punishment is going to be so severe. He is motivated out of justice. He's trying to do the right thing for these people and other future people who might get mixed up in something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe on some level he's being inconsiderate to these people in the Sandpiper case, but he's not being greedy and evil.
Yeah. And he's being honest, like
sense of justice.
He says it up.
Honest about it.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, you didn't know I was doing this. Ha ha ha. No, he's like, I'm laying it out for you guys.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, at any point, if Irene or anyone spoke up and said, I don't know about this, I don't know if we should do this, I think he wouldn't be like, you be quiet, sit down, let me do my job.
Mm-hmm.
He's making a point of communicating with them. I think he would probably like make his case and make sure they understand, but he would definitely back off and not push for this inordinately.
Yeah. And like I said, he listens. Like he found out one of the people's names, and he said, he's like, and you, Sandy or whatever her name was. It was kind of funny because there was like a black gentleman, and he's like, and you, sir, because he didn't know his name. It was kind of a funny thing, but it was also, he's trying to be personable, but like sometimes you just, I don't know. I find it neat how they do the dialogue.
He's not good enough to have everyone's name memorized.
Exactly.
But he is trying to make a point of it, and he's being respectful along the way, and etc.
Also, this is a sign of he's a good person. Like
yes.
Like, yeah. I mean, obviously, me and Sean can't go over how much they're trying to emphasize that he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to be a good person. He's trying to be a great citizen, or a good citizen of society. Well, Saul and Kim are not.
Yes.
So let's see. So after that, let's see. All right. Okay. So Cliff, he's with Cliff, and Cliff is like, I need to talk to you, to Howard. So they go into the parking lot, and Cliff just lays it out to Howard, and Howard's like, pretty much like, this is, I'm not on drugs, and he pieces it together. He's like, I don't have a problem. I don't have the problem you think I have. I have a Saul problem, or Jimmy problem. I think he, because he refers to him as Jimmy. So he pretty much, which, I didn't realize this, that Jimmy was expecting this already. I mean, I kind of had an idea, but I didn't realize how ahead Jimmy really thought of the plan. But
and Kim, to be fair,
and Kim, yes, ahead, that is, yeah. I mean, if you have two really great minds clashing together, you're going to probably nail out a lot of the things too, let's see, sorry.
Also interesting here that Cliff was approaching Howard like a friend. It wasn't like, what's your problem, man? You need to get off the drugs. He's like, hey, are you okay? What's going on?
Yeah.
I've seen some things that are hard to reconcile coming from you. And yeah, it's I thought it was a good interaction between them.
I'm trying to find the notes from this particular scene because I jumped to the boxing scene. Oh, here we go. I just mixed it up. Or does not know how to respond. Yeah, there's a couple of like really good things, and this is another thing that I appreciate about how they've been writing Howard and how he performs it. He's just a really good person. Like he doesn't, like you were saying, isn't mad at Cliff. He says like a line, Cliff, I know it was not easy for you. Basically not easy for him to confront him, but you came to me as a friend, and I appreciate it. He recognizes that it was really hard for him, especially since he knows that Cliff had an issue, or his son had an issue, and he wants to let him know that he appreciates it. I don't know. It's just
he wasn't offended by the accusation, which a lot of people might have been.
Yeah,
he was put himself in the other person's shoes. He thought out what must have been going on to get to this point. It shows not only is he intelligent, but also considerate.
Yeah, that's what we're considerate. Yes.
Like he's all the things a good person should be.
Yes.
Over and over again, we see that from him.
So then there's the boxing scene. I'm trying to think if we should go into the boxing scene yet. Yeah, we'll just jump into it. So right after that, the next scene with Howard and Saul. Saul is like knocking at a door, and up on top it's like nighttime. You see a sign that says box or boxing. That's in blue, which I thought that was kind of a cool thing to like realize that, because at first you think that Saul is doing something shady. Because he knocks on the door and he's like, I have a client. So you just assume that he's dealing with not the cartels, but like this people who are not doing good things.
Someone in the underworld.
Exactly.
Someone, yeah.
But and the person's name is Ward, Mr. Ward. And he walks in and Saul sees Howard, and he connects it. He's like, H.O. Ward. Oh, I see. That's cute. I didn't even catch that the first time until I spelled it out. I was like, oh, that's Howard. Like the name actually spells Howard. But Howard just confronts, Jimmy. He just lays it out. He's like, I know you're doing this. If you want to get out, whatever the hell's going on with you, let's just take it in the ring. And there's a lot of neat things in this scene. Like they use color, blue and red a lot. When Jimmy walks in, behind him is a red punching bag, and like above him is a red, exit sign. And of course on Howard's side, you see the ring, and he's more on the blue side. This is before they even get in. Like they're just showing the differences between there, and that Jimmy is in the wrong and Howard's in the right. And
it's just another example of how it's clear intent. There's no way that they accidentally perfectly keep Jimmy on the red side and Howard on the blue side for every frame of this scene,
Yep. And they're wearing,
yeah, and then when they put the boxing gear on, the gloves and the hat and everything, Jimmy's is red, Howard's is blue.
Yep. And they have, they punch it out, and it takes only a couple of hits and they're knocked out. and Howard wins. Like he does an uppercut to him and he's just out. Like Saul can't. Like normal people can't. Well, they are normal people, but can't survive a uppercut without like being knocked out. I think that it's kind of
worth noting, even aside from the actual landed punch, they were realistically exhausted, just holding your arms up and dancing around and swinging and dodging a couple times. Whew, that'll win you. If you're not in good condition. That boxers like run and train a lot for a reason. Like aside from the actual punches, it's an exertion to just be in that position in the ring, and you see it. I think they performed that well. That they were like breathing hard and kind of slumping over. They weren't expert boxers. It would have been very frustrating if they went out there and were like expert boxers. Like this is not the characters they had built up, right? These guys are lawyers, not boxers. I'm glad they didn't make them good at something they shouldn't be good at.
And when they took hits, like it hurt. Like it looked like like, like each hit was like painful. Like.
Even a person landing a hit was almost like, "Whoa, are you okay?" Like,
exactly.
I guess I hit you. I didn't even mean to do that.
It was just a fun scene. I thought they performed it really well. Like it felt fairly realistic for. I mean, I don't do boxing, but I can see that. Like I wouldn't want to get hit. And they delivered the hits just felt like painful. I'm like, so it was good, and more so the colors were like the obvious standout of that scene, But right after that, Howard's like, I hope this cleared things up. I don't think it really is, but I just hope it does. Like he's almost giving him the benefit of the doubt, Saul. Knowing that, or Jimmy, knowing that Jimmy's probably still going to screw with him, but he's trying to like almost reason with him. And he walks out and you see he walks into a car and there's a PI. And he's like, follow Saul or follow Jimmy. Which I didn't see coming, obviously, when I first watched this episode. I guess you may not even realize it, I don't know, but I thought that was really clever,
One thing that I give the show credit for every scene having some meaning and everything piecing together well, and it has sort of artistic integrity. But sometimes I think that they know they're misleading us sometimes. I think sometimes something happens they know can be read in more than one way, and they let us read it the wrong way. We were speculating for a while that when we know that Mike has someone following Jimmy and Kim, and then we see that Howard has someone following Jimmy, we expect some crossover, some conflict to happen there, which it ends up not happening. But I feel like they were setting that up. They were getting us to worry about that, but we're worrying about the wrong thing. I also want to point out the idea that at the end of that match that Howard is part of him, he's wanting. His mind is trying to figure out what's going on with Jimmy. He understands that Jimmy maybe hasn't fully gotten over Chuck's death. He understands that there's some role that Chuck that he might have had in it all that either was inappropriate or could be perceived as such. Howard himself is having a hard time processing with Chuck's death. Jimmy's gotten mixed up in some other shady stuff aside from even Chuck or him. And now he's like targeting Howard. He's like throwing bowling balls at his car. And
and prostitutes.
His car and is planning. Like he's doing some wild, crazy stuff. And Howard is just he's trying to figure out how to deal with it. And an idea he has he hadn't come up with yet. Just do anything at this point. It's like, why don't we duke it out? That's kind of like a primal thing to do, right? Jimmy seems to be a little bit more passionate and aggressive and take action toward a guy, where Howard is a little bit more like calm. His license plate says namaste. He's like more cool and serene. But Howard's like, well, okay, let me try to play Jimmy's game. Let's have a boxing match. He's trying anything. And at the end, he's like, all right, maybe that'll settle it. Maybe that got it out of your system. And on some level, I think that's something that people do. Is they kind of what's the word? They superimpose. They project themselves onto other people.
Yeah.
They think I would do this, and so someone else in this situation would do that too. And a lot of times you're right, but not all the time. And I think we talked before about the idea, like if you're a dishonest person, when someone tells you something, you might not trust them. I might lie to someone, they might be lying to me. But if you're an honest person and you wouldn't normally lie to someone, when someone tells you something, it might be a lie, you're not suspicious of it because I wouldn't lie, they wouldn't lie to me, you know.
Right.
So I think it shows an extra layer of wisdom in Howard too. His default is, after a moment like this, I would drop it. It's settled. We duked it out. But he recognizes it's not that simple. He's like, I hope that's it for us, but it's probably not. He's smart enough to know this probably isn't going to sell the issue, and has planned ahead by hiring this PI. So,
and
he thinks is a PI.
Yeah. I was gonna say the fact that I almost feel like we got double duked as an audience is brilliant, because I didn't see him hiring a private eye. I didn't also see the private eye being false. Not right away, at least, Actually, I didn't even see it until, episode 7. I thought that the PI was getting false information somehow, but I didn't think he was involved with Jimmy. And I thought that was kind of neat. That's just me personally.
One thing that made it a little suspicious to me, I think it happens in the next episode, but is when the PI brings the pictures to Howard.
Yeah.
And he asks him a sort of a leading question. He's got the picture of Jimmy withdrawing a bunch of cash. And he asks, I'm not a lawyer, but why would someone need to withdraw this much money? And Howard's like, not for any legal reason,
I thought that was like
that's
a
not
funny
necessarily proof of anything, but it was the little clue that they gave us.
Okay. That makes sense. So that pretty much ends the Kim, Saul, Howard scenes in this episode. Then they jump. We're going to jump to Gus. Unless you have anything else to say about that. You went on silent. Yeah, you're on silent right now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So Gus. Gus is pretty much getting a little unstable. Like, we don't see Gus ever, at least especially in like Breaking Bad, he seems like he's in control of the situation, which makes a lot of sense for his character, because he likes to be in control. He likes to know, he likes to be know that everything's going to be fine. But Lalo being alive and not knowing where he is, it's just making him not be able to predict stuff, which makes him just, unstable. And so we see that,
paranoid,
yeah.
He's adjusted his schedule. He's spending all kinds of resources trying to get surveillance going. He's on edge. His plans are on hold. It's his concerns over Lalo are a big monkey wrench in his life.
Yeah. Luckily, we have Mike there to almost stabilize him. Because Mike's like, because Mike may be paranoid too. He's because he doesn't like a crazy killer being out there, being able to kill his employee and him and anybody he cares about. But how Mike handles it is very almost professional. What's the word? Steady? I don't want to say steady. But he's just handling it a lot better. But Gus, he's at his restaurant. He's in a yellow shirt. You talked about this earlier on in a couple of sessions ago. But there's a pack of clothes, or since he's in his office, he has like clothes hanging up, and behind that is a mirror, and he parts certain colors just to look at himself. Like on one side there was
a series of blue jackets that were kind of in the middle on hangers.
Yes, there's orange on one side, yellow on the other.
Way to be able to see into the mirror. And I think that's blue representing good.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not good. Get this out of the way so I can see my real self,
Yeah. Very cool. I mean, that went over my head the first time. That may have went over my head until like you told me that. I may have like caught that just because of the colors, but like after rewatching. But it's just a really cool thing, because he also does it like so, like it doesn't feel forced, I guess, on the scene. It feels very natural that he would just like, I just want to look at myself. I want to check to see if my gun's there. The color thing just went over my head, and I just think that's so awesome. you know,
never miss a chance.
exactly, never miss a chance. But they have like this cool shot of where you follow him as he walks through his restaurant because he's at Polos, La Polos. Am I saying that right, or is it Pollos?
Pollos.
Yeah,
Pollos Hermanos, the Chicken Brothers.
Yes. And it's just a cool sequence where you just follow him as people are doing their job at a fast food restaurant, and you know you mainly get the back of his head, and eventually he's pretty serious. Like he's like looking around, he's trying to figure out how to like if he keeps the restaurant in control, he'll feel almost like better, you know. And like he like fixes little things.
Control over.
Yeah, control. Like he sees this little hat and he fixes it, you know, just little things. But yeah, then he goes over to the front counter, and how he presents that, like, you know, because he's like, you know, there's a lot of stuff in his mind, but then he puts on this facade. He's like, how can I help you, you know, to the customer. I don't know, give props to the actor, you know, the camera angles and all that, because it was just a cool sequence.
I think there's another little piece there that's I want to give them credit for, that I think they do here and there.
Yeah.
It's reminding us that Gus, I don't know how to say this, quote unquote, dirty work is not beneath him. He's willing to take care of things himself.
Yes.
He's willing to, quote unquote, lower himself down to do work that's, quote unquote, beneath him.
Yes. Because, you know, being a cashier is the lowest end job.
I think they were setting up a lot of parallels between Gus and Howard here. We see later
I was thinking that too, yeah.
when that guy spills the sodas, Howard helps him clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
We saw earlier when Gus dropped a glass, he cleaned up the mess. Gus is willing, he's the manager and owner of Los Pollos, but he's willing to go up to the register and help out with the line, you know?
Yep.
And I think that we see similar, you know, same thing with the kind of meticulous, you know, setting up of his clothes and everything. We see the same thing with the scene with Howard when he's in his closet and his tie. Both of them are almost OCD, the attention to detail, they're planning ahead. I think there's a lot of parallels that they draw between the two of them. And but I think an extra thing we're seeing here from Gus in this moment is that, like you said, I didn't pick up on that, but that's a good idea, that this is something he can control.
Mm-hmm.
He's finding some sort of comfort here at this job. But also that he's willing to do the work of any employee, and he wouldn't ask someone else to do something he's not willing to do himself.
Yep.
And we see that happen a few times throughout the course of the story.
Yeah. They also do something really cool when he is helping a customer. A customer is like, or he suggests, you know, just like in fast food, you know, you should get this, you know, like these curly fries. And then the camera like pans on his face and the audio blurs. Freaking awesome how they did this. And you know,
it's
obviously
great use of different filmmaking tools to just totally change the tone.
Yes.
You knew something was up because of the way the camera focus changes, the music changes, it was really, really good moment.
And then then something gets knocked over behind him and he snaps out of it, you know, which Sean points this out. I didn't even think about it. I just was like, well, someone just dropped their tray, you know. This is an employee that dropped, not a customer. But Sean points out that was probably a bodyguard because they pointed that out already. It's a little detail, but it makes sense, you know, because he runs this like really tight, what's it called, like restaurant or like his employees seem to be. Oh, what's the word you're gonna say?
Tight ship is a
that's what I was thinking of. So I'm not saying that people are perfect and they could drop off, you know, knock over stuff, but it seems more likely that they wouldn't, but a bodyguard would.
Right.
So
a new person that wasn't chosen and trained by Gus is more likely to make a mistake like that than someone that Mike stuck in there, not so much to be an employee of the restaurant, but to be on the lookout for Lalo or to protect Gus or whatever. And
because he's like, no, he's vulnerable right now. If you think about it, Gus at a restaurant. Now, it'd probably be dumb of Lalo just to go in there and kill him because there's witnesses and all that. But he also still wouldn't not have a bodyguard, so it makes sense to have a bodyguard. But yeah, just also like after that, he like walks outside and he like storms out. He goes in between a couple of blue cars. there's like a blue car at the start of when he walks. There's a blue car at the end. That was interesting. A lot of gray cars. Not 100% sure why that they chose that. I mean, obviously that represents good. Is he walking between? Like he knows he. Trying to think of
I
like.
don't think it's so much that the cars are blue and gray, is that they aren't red and orange.
Yeah.
He's not in danger at that moment. Even though he's being paranoid.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
I think what clicked in his head when he tried to upsell the spicy curls, he went through it like triggered these different thoughts and memories.
Mm-hmm.
Spicy curls seasons ago, he went to Houston for some sort of business conference where he was rolling out the spicy curls, like a new polio.
Yes, I remember that.
Initiative. Yeah. Okay. And while he was on that meeting, he met with Lydia from Madrigal. Madrigal is a German company that has been kind of in the background of the production and distribution of the meth. They get some chemicals from them that gets turned into meth, and they ship the meth back out to them to distribute into Europe. They were in Breaking Bad. Mike went to visit them at one point to get sort of like a cover job so that they could just the payment so they could like be funneling money. They needed a reason for Gus to be paying Mike, so he became like a security consultant for Madrigal. Anyway, that Madrigal, Lydia, this is that company and that woman have been part of the story in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah,
and one way was at the same time that Gus was rolling out the spicy curls, not spicy girls. He met with Lydia from Madrigal, a German company. It clicks in his mind, Werner's from Germany. Lalo was on to Werner. No one can find Lalo right now because he's in Germany. That's why no one can track him down. That's in the parking lot, no red cars around. He's not in danger right now. Lalo isn't anywhere nearby. I think that's what clicked in his brain. I think that's what's happening there. And I feel extra confident because you see how things play out. When we'll get to it in a minute, but when he goes down into the lab, he doesn't plant a gun there. He plants the gun that was on his leg.
Exactly.
He disarms himself. In the next episode, or one of the next couple episodes, he goes to make a speech at a school. He's out in public. He shed some of his paranoia.
Yeah, he gets back in control, basically.
He's kind of figured out what Lalo's up to. He's planning based on that. Yeah.
So yeah. That went over my head. I forgot that about the whole fries being from Germany and all that. So that makes so much sense. Also, it's another way of like just how they implement storytelling so well, because the fact that they use Germany in multiple instances, like curly fries to people who are building stuff. I don't know. That's just brilliant. Yeah,
they really have to tie things together from the past. It shows how consistent they are with the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to suddenly, randomly do something unexpected out of nowhere. We might not realize it in the moment, but after it happens, if you look back, it was set up.
Yep.
Everything makes sense. It makes sense. A lot of times, I think something that writers don't do is think about what's going on with a character outside of what's happening on screen, right? There's more when Gus goes home after working at the restaurant, what does he do at home? What's happening in his life? Same thing for Howard. They show us that eventually in little bits, but the point is that is part of their characters and it's going to affect the plot. Stuff's going on in people's minds. It doesn't always get said out loud. These little connections that Gus had. There's not a reason. He's not going to turn over to Lyle in a restaurant and be like, hey, remember when I met with Lydia and I was reminded of magic? There's no one for him to say that to. We have to pick up on that as viewers. They give us all these pieces, but it's not always, they're not going to force feed it to us. They're not going to spoon feed it to us. We got to pay attention, piece the mystery together. Yeah.
So the next scene has Mike. And he's basically at the house, the double house, like across the street from Gus's house. There's the safe house, I guess. And I like how Mike treats his employees or like humans, like they're not like just like he cares about the people he hires. He wants to make sure they're all right, they're fed. Like he asks them, "Did you eat?" And they're like, "Yeah, we ate." It's a little thing, but it makes me respect Mike even more, when he goes through the effort to take care of his men. It's kind of like taking care of employees, like you're not going to care about your employee or your manager unless he takes care of you almost. Like, you know, there has to be like some respect almost, or um personableness. I don't know. You know, again, when you bring back Gus, you know, when he like decides to do the little jobs, you know, it shows a level of respect. I feel like people respect people who do that, you know, and you want to do your best when you feel like you're treated good.
If your boss leaves early and bosses people around all the time and never cleans up messes and then tells you to stay late and clean up a mess, I mean, you might do that a couple times, but you're looking for another job.
Exactly.
Right? But if your boss stays late all the time, cleans up messes that they make or that other people make all by themselves, and in one time in a busy moment ask you to please clean up a mess, you're gonna be like, yeah, of course, got this, no problem, you know.
Exactly.
Also, I want to point out, not only we see in this moment that Mike is trying to make sure everyone's taken care of, but as you said earlier, that Mike is doing a good job of kind of keeping things organized and keeping a level head when Gus is, you know, on the cusp of panicking, you know, when he's full of paranoia. Mike is still struggling with it. They make the point that, like, hey, we don't really have enough people for all this. We've got people that aren't really vetted for all this. Like, we got guys on 18-hour shifts. Like, they're barely keeping it together. And
yeah, he almost like cares about his employees more than himself because he knows about the whole operation, you know, and if things are getting unstable, there could be issues. Like Lalo could reach that, you know. So Mike walks into the bathroom and we see Gus cleaning the bathroom with a toothbrush. And Gus says, well, Mike says along the lines like, you know, either you shouldn't be doing this or you know, you should be in your house or something like that. But Gus says he cannot strike, not yet. Like he basically was saying to Mike and us that he knows he's safe. You know?
Yeah. I think in that moment that Gus is literally still stewing over what he realized earlier.
Yeah.
He's still like coming up with a plan, trying to piece together the details. So what is Lalo doing? What will his next step be? How can I anticipate it? I think he's still piecing it out in his own mind. And I think a lot of times, for me, I think most people, when you have to say something out loud, it's kind of a swirl of vague thoughts in your mind start to become more clarified when you have to say or write them down, you know. And I think that's part of what happened in that moment when Gus is, even though it was very minor and brief, you know, when he says it to Mike, I think it was like a consolidation of thoughts and emotions that were in his brain. Like, he can't strike right now, you know.
Yeah, Mike may have not even said anything. I had to see that. Like, he may have said, I'm trying to think of what the heck Mike said. So that makes sense too. If he's just like, you know, that they decide to go out, you know, and they go to the unbuilt lab. I remember seeing the shot the first time and I was like, what's going on? Like the camera angle they used for people to walk down the stairs of the lab was really interesting. This is like a above shot underneath the ladder. You realize it's a ladder.
So as long as you're bringing that up, wasn't that same that, you know, earlier with at the safe house with Gus and Mike? Wasn't that when Mike like came out of the back of the truck, right, in the garage?
I think so.
You remember how they shot that scene?
Mm.
It was kind of upside down of the truck or the SUV or whatever coming in to the driveway.
Oh yeah.
And it starts to like go over the back end of the driveway, and you see someone get out. You realize that the camera was on the garage door. That's how they got that shot.
Yeah.
Right? That was an awesome shot.
Okay, now that you bring it up, look, this happened a couple, like episode 2 or 3. I think it was 3. There's the episode where Saul pretends to be Howard, and he closes the door, and they have the camera on the door, and that was like one of those, like, I love that shot type of moments.
Yeah. By the way, you know, I saw that shot used one other time before.
Yeah, I felt like it did too.
Moonlight.
And what? You said
Moonlight, the
uh,
movie Moonlight. It
oh,
won Best Picture a
cool.
few years ago. They did
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
They had the camera on the door. It was like on the door facing in
Mm,
to the driver and passenger. And
yeah.
as they're driving, having a conversation, they stop. And all of a sudden, I don't realize it at first, but just when they stop, all of a sudden the camera's like, woo, like just like swings out to the back end of the car and then suddenly flams back. And like, what just happened? Like, oh, the camera was on a door and the door opened and closed back. It's such an interesting, unique
Yes. Yes.
filming moment, and they did it again here in Better Call Saul. They did it again. Another
Yeah.
filmmaker decided to use that
Inspired.
same
Yeah.
technique. Yeah.
No, it's very cool. I love when they come up with creative ways of doing the camera. And you could do a dolly or track or whatever, but when they do objects that are in the scene, that's just cool. And it could be done really bad too. It's a really tricky thing to do in the first place, but when it's done and they did it really well, it's fantastic. See, why did I? Oh, that's right. We were talking about the ladder. So they go down and you realize that they're in the unbuilt lab, and Gus pretty much is like, well, Mike realizes that Gus just needs to be by himself, so Mike leaves and Gus walks down, and there's like this plug that goes like, halfway through the place, near the stairwell, and the pipe or pillar that's red, and he unplugs it.
Not so much a plug, but a cord.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. It's a cord. And he unplugs it or does something like he disconnects it, it looks like, and lays it down and then counts 7 steps. That is right next, or when he ends, he's right next to a tractor, and he puts the gun that Sean was saying that was on his ankle on the track, like in between the track of the tractor.
And it's another thing that, the elegant storytelling. They showed us that gun a couple times on his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
And in those moments, they were showing a number of things, including his sort of meticulous and attention to detail. He would like tighten a strap and make sure you couldn't see it through his pant leg or whatever, right? So they also were showing he's kind of paranoid. He's carrying around a gun. He keeps checking to make sure it's there.
Yep.
But at this point, we realize also that he's removing that gun. He's not just putting a gun down there in the lab. It's the gun that he had been carrying around his ankle. They wanted to make a point of us seeing him disarm himself. So
yes.
It's like just elegant storytelling. I can't
Yep.
think of a better way to say it.
No, it is.
They're able, without any dialogue,
exactly, no dialogue,
images that carry multiple meanings, all pieced together to give us even greater meaning.
Now, the question is, why did we see that scene? What was so important other than that? There's obviously another reason. And I think Sean has come up with this, and I thought about it too, that Lalo and Gus are going to meet down there somehow. Lalo's going to die. Now, Sean brought up the idea that he thinks that he may be tied up, that Gus may not be able to see where he's going, and that's why he was counting the steps, and he needs to know where certain things are placed. I don't know if you have more on the theory after thinking about it more, but it makes a lot of sense.
I think that he wants to be able to find that gun in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's because he has a hood on his head, or because he plans on disconnecting the power.
Oh, I never thought about
the from outside.
Disconnect the power. That's why he was maybe messing around with that thing too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that cord, I think what he did is it probably plugs in and locks. And I think he unlocked it.
I think he will kick it
so that it'll pop apart more easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an idea. There's lots of different things that could happen here. Like I don't know for sure. I'm a little less sure now that I think that he will be captive in some way down there. That's what I was wondering if it might happen. He might purposefully get himself caught by Lalo, but then why would Lalo go down into there if that did happen?
Yeah.
Maybe it won't be Lalo. Maybe Lalo gets someone else to work with him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. At this point, knowing how things have gotten through episode 7, I'm starting to think that it might be an arranged meeting. That
I was thinking that actually, an arranged meeting.
Agree to go down there before they do, to be disarmed. Gus might give a like a Batman villain type speech explaining his whole plan, which might be nice for the audience too. I think there's a chance that Gus and Lalo start working together. I wish I could remember the details better, but I'm pretty sure that Bolsa, who is kind of at the same echelon of power rank as Lalo and Gus, Bolsa, they report to Don Eladio, who's like the head of the whole cartel.
Yeah.
I think Bolsa is the one that set up that had the ambush happen in the desert for the money. I think that he
Oh.
wanted to keep Lalo in jail. I think that the
Hmm.
idea is that what Bolsa wants is to keep peace.
Yeah.
That Gus is making a lot of money. The Salamancas are part of this cartel crime family, and they've kind of like proven their worth over time. But there's still these loose cannons. Tuco and Hector, they have like, they're irrational and arrogant and mean, and like they just cause trouble. Where Gus is like calm and predictable and makes a bunch of money and doesn't cause trouble. And so Hector in a wheelchair, Lalo and Tuco in jail. Lalo, like Bolsa, I think was happy to just let Gus kind of move into a greater position of power.
Mhm.
And so he was trying to, not only does he stop that money from getting delivered, keep Lalo in jail and effectively gets Gus in more power without there being a war between Gus and the Salamancas, which Bolsa does not want. It also gets him like millions of dollars for himself or this rival
Yeah.
cartel or whatever. Anyway, if Lalo has pieced this together, and he's likely to have,
Mhm.
right? He's a shrewd guy. Same thing with Gus. I can see them forming an alliance against Bolsa. I can see them
Hmm.
having something to talk about. Lalo wants to talk pretty bad. I can see that what I'm kind of predicting now, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. I think that Lalo is going to have Jimmy set up a meeting between Gus and Lalo. I think that Gus is somewhat prepared for this meeting and is hoping or expecting to kill Lalo with the gun that he's hidden. If to have the meeting, they have to agree to be disarmed. Gus will be okay with that because he already has a gun down there.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm less sure it's going to play out that way at this point. But anyway, that's where clearly this scene is meant to set up a showdown between. Well, maybe not clearly, but I think apparently this scene is meant to be setting up a showdown between Gus and Lalo
I just
down there.
realized something too when
Probably
you.
with the lights off, probably unarmed,
Yeah.
etc.
You brought up a point. So Lalo originally was going to die because of some other group. That's what Nacho said. That's what Gus and made Nacho pretty much say. This group is responsible. If Lalo dies, who's going to kill Lalo? Like, how are they going to fake that? Not fake it, but like, wouldn't Balsa be like, why did you kill him? Why didn't you bring him to me?
Well,
He,
Bolsa thinks he's dead right now. If Gus kills him, he
that's
just doesn't
true.
tell anyone.
That's
Everyone
true.
thinks he's
I
dead.
forget that only
Gus is the
Hector.
only Gus and Hector
Yeah,
are the
I
only
forgot
ones
about
that
that. You're
really
right.
know.
You're right. So he would have to make him just literally disappear after killing him. That's what I meant.
And so a lot of people suspect it makes sense he's gonna kill him, and he'll just be buried when they finish the lab. His
Yeah.
body will just be in the concrete down there.
Right. But yeah. So obviously, fun predictability. We're figuring out what's going to happen. I'm pretty much thinking the same thing. Where like somehow the lights are going to be turned off. It makes more sense when he kicks it and then has to figure out where the gun is, which he already memorized it. It's more of how they get down there.
Hector did, in Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
Gus does tell Hector that he's the last Salamanca. Now, might be lying to him.
Well,
Right?
technically, it's
Especially
not because they're still the twins, at least for a little bit.
I can't remember positively, but I think that they were killed. They in the confrontation with Hank, they were put into the hospital, and I think someone went there to kill them in the hospital.
Yeah. No, they definitely die in the long run. It's just after season 3, so
Yeah.
I assume that
it was
conversation.
after season 3 when Gus told Hector he was the last Salamanca.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah,
I still think it's at least possible that he was lying about that, or even if he was telling the truth, we're not sure at what point it happened. Like,
yeah.
He doesn't. I'm just saying he's not necessarily going to die in these next couple episodes. I think it's a safe bet. I don't think it's crazy to speculate on that. I was almost certain of it at first, but I'm just starting to reevaluate it.
Yeah, I mean, the show writers say that there's still going to be a couple twists that we're not going to see coming. They probably lay the foundation, but we're not.
See.
Yeah, no, that's
we'll see.
Like this.
I'm gonna get to the bottom of it.
Like I feel like a lot of people are assuming that Lalo is gonna die. It may be because they left evidence for us to figure that out. But
like another
things may not play out. Oh, sorry.
Is Saul in season 2 of Breaking Bad? Saul seems to think Lalo is still alive.
You said in
Jesse
Breaking Bad?
and Walt kidnap Saul.
Huh?
Whole story why they do that. They want Saul to, when Badger gets arrested, they are they want Saul to represent Badger, but they don't want Badger to rat them out.
Right.
Saul won't agree to this plan, so they kidnap Saul.
Mm.
Have masks on. They bring him to the desert. He's like, "Oh my God, did Lalo send you? Is this? It wasn't me. It was Nacho." You know, it seems in that moment like he thinks Lalo is still alive. Now, Lalo might be dead, and Gus didn't tell him.
Mm-hmm.
Lalo might be dead, and Gus did tell Saul, but Saul doesn't believe it. Already they told Saul he was dead, and he showed up at his apartment. So
that's a good point.
I could see a lot of angles to explain. You know, maybe even Saul knows he's dead, but it's to his benefit to pretend he's alive. Or I could see a lot of angles, but those are two pieces of data we have to take into account. Is that Saul seems to think that Lalo is alive in season 2 of Breaking Bad, and Gus tells Hector that he's the last Salamanca in season 4 of Breaking Bad, whenever it was he killed him. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think that was season 4.
Season 4. So we go to, after this, there's a scene with Lalo. But before we go to Lalo's, we're gonna jump back up to Kim. I forgot if there was like the one scene where they're where he comes home, where Saul comes home with a bag on his eye. And give me a sec. Where is that, Howard? Okay, it's right up here. Him standing on the patio. Saul's putting makeup on his eye, you know, because he has like a court thing in the morning, so he's trying to make sure he doesn't have like a black eye or look like he has a black eye. And Kim says, "You got the judge name, Casimiro." And I don't know if this is a slogan that actually happened, but she makes like a funny little thing where she's like, "I'll fight for you," and she like punches. You know, did he actually use that as a slogan in his thing?
I think he does. I can't remember if he does the punch, but he says,
"No,
I'll
not the
fight
punch.
for you," or "I'll fight for justice," or something to that effect. I think so.
So it's just a callback to, I think, Breaking Bad, of where he got this, idea for a slogan.
Another clue that Kim is helping build Saul's persona.
Yes.
She points out that when Saul gets a new car and it's like like a beige sedan, she's like, "That's not the kind of car Saul drives," and we know eventually he gets this white Mercedes or whatever, so
I feel like
she kind of understands a persona that Saul should have, and she's helping to build it. I think that's another clue piece that we're seeing here, is that I suspect in the long run is that Kim is doing a lot behind the scenes.
Yes.
Saul is sort of the front man, but Kim is pulling a lot of strings.
So the next thing is with Lalo, and he is in Germany. So at first we don't even know where we are. We see two people playing an arcade. This is a clever way of doing, like, telling a location without saying Germany, like in big bold letters, like in some movies. You have two people playing a game, and like questions like, who scored the winning goal in the Germany Cup? So you're like, are they in Germany? They're speaking. Well, you may know it's German if you're a good German person, but like, I don't know Germany, so I don't know what they're speaking. But they do.
The fact that the trivia question is about soccer and not football. That's or American football or whatever. Yeah.
But it's just a neat way of just introducing that or to tell a story that people are in Germany without blatantly saying it, creative way.
The showrunners kind of assume that we're paying attention and that we can figure things out. They don't need to tell us everything.
And it was
also, I want to clarify. You said they're in an arcade. They're in a bar.
Let me phrase that. They're playing an arcade. Yes, you're absolutely right. And this scene has another double meaning when they have another question. Another character or response to that, like she says this answer, and that person is Margarita. Am I saying that right?
I think.
Huh?
I think Margarita is a more Spanish way of saying the name or version of the name. I think Marguerite.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. And this is Warner's wife, which we never met. We heard about her because Warner was talking to her over the phone a couple of times, but we never got to see her. And at first, honestly, when I envisioned her, I always thought of her as more of a meek person. Maybe saying that right word. But I winded up like actually liking her a lot more, and I can see why he fell in love with her. She's pretty strong for a woman. But and she's really intelligent. Like, I don't know why. I mean, it makes sense that Warner would have like an intelligent wife, but I just thought she was more subdued for some reason in my mind. So I just need to see her and get to meet this character that Warner fell in love with. But Lalo confronts her in a really clever way, and they wind up talking and have this like really nice chemistry together. And she winds up inviting him. Well, they talk about like obviously Lalo's there to get information. Like, he wants to know what her husband was doing. And obviously she just doesn't know the details. She knows vague ideas and what she's been told, but she doesn't know the ideas. But he winds up inviting, or she winds up inviting him to her place, but she realizes that, it's probably not a good idea because I work in the morning, and he leaves. I don't know if you have any more input on this before I dive into the next part of the scene with Lalo.
No, just in general, the idea that Lalo's following a lead. He doesn't necessarily even know what he's going to find out from her, but he knows that Gus is up to something. Warner's connected to it. Here's Warner's wife. He'll find out what he can. And, sure enough, he does find key information. But I think they make him out to be. They've already made him out to be, charismatic and charming, and shrewd. He's also ruthless. He's also can be a cold-blooded killer, but he's also very intelligent and very patient. And I think that's part of what we're seeing here.
Yes. And I got the vibe that kind of like how he didn't want to kill the person that he body doubled with.
Mateo.
Yeah, Mateo. He doesn't really want to kill her, and he may find another way. Like, if he doesn't have to kill someone, he's just not going to go out and just kill him for no reason. He'll find another way, and he does. Especially after like realize, because I feel like he has a good. He's good with people when it comes right down to it. He's charismatic or whatever, and I feel like to some degree too, like he kind of likes her, So anyways,
I feel bad for her.
Like, or that too. Yeah, exactly.
Her husband was killed, and he kind of knows the truth of it, that he was murdered.
Yes.
And, yeah.
I feel like he was wearing a yellow shirt. I was like, I feel like he was wearing a blue shirt. That we'll get to that. That's next episode. Which I was still trying to debate about why he was wearing this. But anyways, he was wearing a shirt. Also, hello everyone who's in chat. We have Streamer 2.0. How's it going, Streamer? He's usually always in here, and Captain Winter Jaguar, the metaphor, Team Rocket, me and my demon Jaguar. I haven't. Team Rocket is from Pokemon, I think. So, but anyways, we're talking about Better Call Saul. We're diving into the episodes of episode 5 and 6 of season 6. We're just massive spoilers if you don't want to get spoiled, but but just be forewarned, and this is Sean. If you're unaware, Sean, Dancing Sean, he has his channel on YouTube. But sorry. So Lalo, he waits all night, waits for her to go to work, and then he enters her house to try to find more proof of what's going on with Warner. And I remember you saying you're like, we're scared because like, there's a dog in there. And he like walks up to the dog and you're like, is he going to kill the dog? Now, if you actually think about it, I feel like it wouldn't benefit him to kill the dog because that just, like he's trying to get in there and get out without being caught. But we don't know. We still don't know what's going on Lalo's head.
If the dog kept barking so much that it would draw attention, then
that is a good point.
I think he would. He would just kill that dog. But there was no one around at this moment. But they still make us afraid for it, right? That wasn't just me or just you. That was everyone who watched that was scared for that poor little dog.
Yes.
Because they've made him out to be such this ruthless, cold-blooded killer. even though, as you said, it seems like he didn't really want to kill Marguerite or
Oh,
Mateo or Mateo's wife, but but he will do it if he quote unquote needs to. He
yeah,
will just kill pretty much anyone,
it's true.
and sometimes he'll do it even if he doesn't need
Thank you,
to. Like
Captain.
we didn't know if he needed to kill Howard. Like he, but
It's true.
anyway, I think that. Sometimes I wonder if the reason he didn't want to kill certain people was out of some sort of empathy or human element, or out of fear of getting caught.
That's a good
Like if
point.
he
Or
kills
both.
Marguerite,
Yeah,
it might bring more attention to him. People saw him at the restaurant with her the night before.
that's a good point.
He's trying to stay low key right now, so
Um,
it's hard to
someone
know what his true intents or motivations are.
someone brought up he hasn't seen Better Call Saul, but he saw the training short, Pollo's Amigos. I feel like I've seen that. That's like with Gus, and I think he's like, it's him basically having a commercial about his restaurant. If I am
I think
correct,
it's like a indoctrination, like a, what do you call it? Orientation video. Like when you get a new job
yes,
somewhere, you
yes,
watch an orientation video.
yeah. But
And they have a bunch. I don't know, 8 or 10 or maybe more little
mhm,
shorts that they've made.
just cool. Recommend watching Better Call Saul if you haven't. I mean, it's a fantastic show. I mean, we're discussing it because it's
It's an
amazing.
all-time great show.
um, so Lalo spares the dog, goes upstairs, and they are 12 shorts. Goes upstairs, and then Marguerite comes back because she forgets her cell phone, and the dog's going, crazy. The dog, she like opens the doggy door and it runs out, and we're like, oh god, the dog's going to run upstairs, or we're both fearing for the dog and her. And
Yeah,
she decides
yeah.
to go upstairs, and she's suspicious because, well, why is her dog barking upstairs? She puts the dog away so the dog's safe. But on the flip side, we see Lalo just looking around and he sees the introduction episode, or the what do you got? The plate,
Slide rule.
slide rule.
Slide rule that was encased in acrylic. Acrylic was the chemical they were making,
Okay.
covering it in. Yeah.
And we see the words, and we see he flips it down a little bit, and that's why I didn't catch it the first time, I guess. But he flips it down, and you see the company, Volker. And that's where he pieces it together, which I didn't know what he pieced together, honestly, but he pieces something together, and he leaves the house without harming Marguerite. He like exits out the window.
He probably got at least a few other little bits of data, because remember he kind of like thumbed through some books. She
That's
said
true.
something about a
That's
bunch of
true.
paperwork that didn't mean anything to her, and if he was there longer, he might have gotten even more information. But she used the term "his boys." She talked about
That's
Warner's
true.
boys,
That is true.
and that thing said,
His boys.
with love from your boys. So he's like, okay, let me track down the boys. They can give me some more information.
Yeah. Little does he know they're superheroes, but nah. But yeah. So that ends the episode. Do you have any other thoughts about Black and Blue before we hit episode 6, Axe and Grind?
Not particularly. I think we talked about an hour and a half for that
I
episode
know.
already,
I was
so we
thinking
should
that.
get to the next one.
I need to take like a small little 2-minute break. You can take it if you want, to get like drinks or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
I may get a drink. Is there a way? Are there still people in a chat?
there is at least one person, streamer.
I don't. I wish I.
That was
knew
one episode.
how
Yes, it was.
I wish I could tell if they were still there. I
They
don't
are.
know how. Well, I wanted to get a drink, but I was gonna come back and talk.
Oh, you can go ahead and talk. After.
Whoever's there.
Yeah.
Whoever's there, is that person is up to date on the show?
No, they haven't watched the show at all.
Oh, they haven't watched it. Okay. Well,
They just watched the Pollos short. So.
oh, that's right. That's right. I do want to go get a drink,
Uh,
but I'll be right back. If that person doesn't mind hanging on a minute, I'm gonna give like a, I don't know, like a 2-minute spiel on stuff to pay attention to the show if you do watch it. Is
Yeah.
it worth me
Yeah.
doing that? Will you stick around?
Yeah. Okay, but I'll be right back.
Me too.
All right, I'm back. Looks like he just got back.
Aren't you there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
He said, from what I heard before, color is very important to the show. Color is the suit, tie, for basically what they're wearing is very important.
Yes, they use it in. They have like a conscious, active, consistent meaning for the colors. It's like it's part of telling the story. That it can be like a clue, like when a new character comes onto screen. If they're wearing red, it's like, uh-oh, this person is a bad guy. On some level, they're doing something wrong, or they're gonna do something wrong. If they're wearing blue, you're like, oh, I can trust them. This is gonna be a good guy character. If someone changes colors, you know something is up, something is different. You know the lighting that they use, the paintings in the background, what kind of car they drive. Color is giving us clues to someone's intentions, someone's role. They use it constantly and consistently. Once you realize it, it's this whole nother. It's almost like watching a movie or a TV show without sound, and then turning the sound on. Like realizing how they're using color. Like it's just there's this whole new layers of story and information are being conveyed through the colors once you realize they're doing it.
It's actually interesting, just muting the whole episode and watching and see if you could understand what's going on, which you probably could.
Yeah, you probably can mostly understand it, but you're going to miss a lot of nuance and a lot of detail, which this show is all about nuance and detail. Every little, we talked over and over again about every chance they use to convey some extra meaning to the sort of elegant filmmaking presentation. Every scene is there for not just a specific reason, but probably 3 or 4 specific reasons. Even something as simple as like someone looking in their closet, or going into the office at work. There's something in that scene that had meaning, beyond just like the visual action that happened.
Mm-hmm. So we are going to dive into episode 6. Yeah, I felt like that was the longest possible episode talking we've done.
Yeah,
because usually they're an hour. So hopefully this is not going to go any more than an hour. But so neat fact: this episode was directed by Giancarlo Esposito, who's played by who? What's up?
Giancarlo.
I knew I said that wrong. I knew it. Who's Gus? He's a character Gus. And I love when actors direct. I mean, Walking Dead does this sometimes, but an actor, they'll come at a scene or an episode a completely different way than just a regular director, because they have acting experience. They know how to convey certain actions, acting wise, to an actor. Basically, they're an actor director. But obviously,
I can't remember if we mentioned it, but 2 episodes back, episode 4, Hit and Run, that was directed by Rhea Seehorn, Kim.
I heard she directed one. I didn't know which one she directed. I was wanting to do research on that. But yeah, it's just a neat thing, because obviously still directing is very different from acting. And a lot of times too, when an actor decides to direct, they're like, I did not know this was a thing that you would have to basically prepare for. They look at the project completely differently. It's like looking at it through like a first person lens if you're a third person or something like that. So I give props to people who could do it and do it right. Obviously, this is an extremely hard show, I feel like, to direct, and they pull it off.
You can imagine, after being part of it for 5 seasons, they've seen how the other directors are working.
Oh yeah,
they
yeah.
Kind of have an idea of the flow and a process, and I'm sure that they had a lot of support. Like a good leader, a good director is going to just do everything himself, especially if they're doing it for the first time. They're going to rely on the advice and assistance of all the other people. Filmmaking is a team effort,
Yeah, absolutely.
Collaborative effort. Yeah.
So going into this episode, you get introduced. The intro scene is a young girl who's dressed in a blue overalls with a white shirt and red apples on the white shirt, and has a little blue tie in her hair. And you realize this is Kim when she was really young. and her mom comes in. Basically, Kim stole something from some retail or jewelry store, some earrings and some necklace, and the owner gets the mom involved, Kim's mom, and basically the mom chews Kim out. And I loved how they use like the colors, because you have like white wife, would she be in blue with little apples, basically red. She's a good person who has done something bad. You know, and her mom is dressed all in blue, so she must be good. And you get to
Well, her
see.
mom was in light blue. It was
Yes,
like
yeah, I know. That's why it threw me off. I was.
I can't think of acid wash or whatever, like a worn blue jean jacket. So it was very light. It was barely blue.
And her dress, the very top of her dress was blue too. The mom,
And they
or
also she had a purse with this
orange,
prominent orange purse.
Yes,
yeah.
You have to tell me what orange stands for, because I forgot. But overall, you realize that Kim was doing something bad, and her mom's really disappointed in her. Her mom's trying to do the right thing by paying what she stole. But the owner's like, no. Now, I don't know. Well, I assume she knew how this was going to play out. I'm not quite sure. I mean, she was going to pay, but she only could pay so much. She'll pay the rest later, she said. But they walk out, and her mom's all happy with Kim. It looked like she was like, I can't believe you did that. Like almost impressed. I felt. Now they have had scenes like one other flashback, or maybe two, of the mom, or at least Kim.
Only one.
And that I think that her mom was a drug addict. I don't know this 100%. I can't be for certain on this. What was the other scene? Because I can't remember the other past scene.
I think an alcoholic.
Okay.
They're making her out to be, not a drug addict. Although there's probably a lot of similarities. And maybe she used to be one or became one or one or the other. But in the other one, I'm not gonna 100% remember the details. But I think the gist of it was her mom was supposed to pick her up from school.
Oh, that's right, and she doesn't.
For band practice, so didn't get the bus home, and her mom's supposed to pick her up, and then it's like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, like the teachers leave. She calls home, no answer. Finally, like 10 p.m.
Yeah, it was like
her
late.
Mom comes to get her at school. I'm almost wondering if I might be forgetting some of the piece to it, but anyway, you just get the idea.
Yeah,
she's not a good mom. That's the crux of it.
But in this, they get into the car, and then she's like, she pulls out some earrings and necklace or something, like some jewelry, and gives it to her, which I assume she stole. I was confused on that. I got the idea she had stolen it. I rewatched it. I was like, maybe she paid for it. That's so true. I'm like, it's messed up, especially since the colors threw me off, because I was like, when I rewatched it, she was in blue, and I was like, I thought she's supposed to be doing good. She's
I think the whole bit when she's chewing out Kim is she's just pretending to be mad.
Okay,
right, it's an act. It's right. She's just like saying what she knows the guy needs to hear to keep Kim from getting in trouble.
Yeah, that's why I thought the first time, yeah.
And so she's in blue. She's being a relative protagonist here. She's not really a good guy, but she's looking out for Kim. Does that make sense? Like,
yes.
we don't want Kim to get in trouble, and her mama's trying to protect her from that, and so she's cast barely in blue. She's a protagonist, but just barely. And I think the orange is, by the way, I'm not clear on orange. They haven't used it very much in the whole show. It's very rare for orange to show up. I think it's been more in this last season than in all the rest of the show combined.
Who had orange also?
What's that?
Sorry, I was like, I wonder who had orange also, or when orange actually showed up, because you're right, it doesn't show up.
I hardly think of an example. The times I can think of it, it's been like little bits or trim on someone. Where I'm trying to remember even very specifically, but for example, earlier in this season, when Kim was basically extorting the Kettlemans, her shirt had kind of like orange and purple or orange and pink swirls on it, but it wasn't like an orange jacket. It was bits of orange mixed in, which I think were representing. I think orange is like approaching red. That makes sense. It's like you're getting close to being bad or illegal or immoral. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
I think orange is.
No, I think you're
Orange
right.
is like,
That makes sense.
it's in the realm of red. It's nearly red.
It's kind of like how they used orange with Hank. Hank wore orange in Breaking Bad, and it's him trying to. He's near the cartels. He's not a cartel, but he's near the threat.
Right, he's approaching.
Yeah.
In Breaking Bad, they had a different color system, and yellow represented the meth trade. And Hank is getting close to them, right? He's trying to figure them out, who they are, where they're operating, and he was always in orange because he's getting close to them.
Right.
I think if red is criminal, immoral, orange is like almost criminal, almost immoral. Like if she was like, you know, if someone is like a convicted murderer, they're going to be in all red. They're going to have a red jacket and a red hat and red shoes and a red car, right? But if someone shoplifted, maybe they're just an orange, you know, they're not, it's not a completely evil, terrible crime, you know?
Right.
And especially with Kim's mom being kind of a good guy here and that she's trying to protect Kim. And it's exactly like you said, that Kim is mostly in blue, but these little splashes of red because she's fundamentally a good person, but she's testing out something bad. Probably partly because of her mom. She probably sees her mom do bad things. Teenagers
I
do
see
it
what
a
you
lot.
did there.
Teenagers,
Tasting out something that's bad. Apple.
well, I meant to say testing out.
I know.
Yeah, but tasting too, because apple, it is like the original sin, right? It is like that's what Satan gave to Eve, right? It was an apple. It's like a first sin. I think the first time she did something wrong, she kind of got in trouble with authorities, kind of got in trouble with her mom, but in the end, almost like won respect from her mom. Like that's a weird lesson to learn. And I think it's a big indication of Kim's personality that we haven't really seen before, or
and this
been
is why
clarified before. We've seen these little stripes of her getting mixed up in cons. Jimmy wanted to like get the showy guy at the bar to buy them drinks, and they made up this story about some investment to get him to buy them drinks. You remember that bit? And in the whole thing with Huel, and Kim was like, "Ooh, let's do it again." You know, that whole scam they ran on the court to get Huel out of trouble. Generally speaking, the things that she's done that are bad or conniving or shady or whatever so far haven't really hurt anyone that bad, you know. But she's getting deeper into it, and we see her go from wearing blue all the time to now she's wearing maroons and oranges and pinks. And anyway, I think that moment with her as a kid is further reinforcement of both pieces of her personality that were kind of hinted at, and also how they're using color. There was one other insight to her youth that we got. It wasn't a flashback, but when she was meeting with, I think the guy was name was Aker, Mr. Aker, when she was working for Mesa Verde, and they were trying to build this new facility, but this one guy wouldn't move off the land.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
She was, they were threatening him with legal action and were going to evict him. They offered to pay him money, extra money, and he just wasn't. He was just being stubborn about it. And she was trying to find some way to like level with him or relate to him. And she told a story. She's like, "Look, I get it. When I was a kid, we moved all the time. My mom wouldn't pay rent, and we were always trying to get away from the landlord. And if I had a home, I wouldn't want to move either."
That wasn't Kevin, was it?
Kevin was the head of the president or whatever, Mesa Verde.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I know you're talking
anyway,
about. Yeah.
That was one other little insight we got into Kim's youth and Kim's mother, is that they were always on the move, that she was shady, that she was irresponsible. Even though it wasn't a flashback scene, it was the one of 3 bits of insight that we've gotten to her past that I can think of anyway.
Do you know what the license plate said? Or where they were?
Nebraska.
Yes. Yeah.
We know that. We know Kim is from Nebraska. When she got the interview to get the job with Schweikert, the law firm, she said in an interview she grew up in Nebraska. She named a couple small towns. And we know that's where Gene is at now. So that's definitely not just a random coincidence. There's some meaning behind it. Gene is in Nebraska at the Cinnabon.
That's interesting. I didn't even realize that.
There's one other little piece. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just saying,
Yeah. I'm one thing I thought, and a lot of people thought, that maybe Kim and her mom had like worked together to do that shoplifting or whatever, but the showrunner said that wasn't the case.
I thought that the first time,
so you know. Yeah.
And the second time I watched it, I was like, no, but I felt like she said something, like the mom said something, like I can't believe you had it in you, or something along those lines, which means she didn't expect her to do that.
Expect
Basically,
her to do that.
yeah.
Even
But
still, it could still theoretically have been something they planned together because her
that's
mom might
true.
not have thought Kim had it in her to do the plan, you know. But I think that if the mom had been in on it in the first place, she would have more clearly had red on her.
That's
And I
true.
think that's part of why they use orange instead of red
Mhm.
to sort of clarify this separation between her and Kim and what they had done in that moment.
Right.
And if you didn't catch those earrings that the mom shoplifted and gave to Kim,
Mhm.
are the earrings that Kim still wears in almost every single episode. She
That
wears
I
those
didn't know.
earrings.
I think you had mentioned that, but
Yeah.
didn't piece that together.
I
Which
had a picture one time of that that we brought up when one of the first episodes. But,
the necklace, the necklace was never shown again, right?
I'm not sure about the necklace. I don't think so, but I'm less sure about that.
But that's like attention to detail right there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
And a way to tie something in, like
Yeah.
I don't think they thought in episode 3, season 1, they were gonna have this scene where Kim's mom shoplifted those earrings.
No.
Maybe they did, but either way, it's impressive. It's impressive that either they had it thought out that well that long,
Mm.
or that they tied together something they've been doing all along into something so meaningful right here at the end.
Yeah.
Either way, it's amazing writing on their part.
Yeah, they say that they write stuff like organically. Kind of like
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin. Like they didn't know, for example, that Nacho was going to die. They thought that they actually tried to save him. Like they tried to find ways to do it, but it just didn't make any sense. All right, it doesn't make sense in this
where
universe.
things end up going in Breaking Bad, there's no way for him to still be alive.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely, it's amazing what the writer staff could do.
I want to point out one more little bit of that scene. Something that's affecting my theories about where it's going in the next few episodes.
Huh?
When they come out of the mall, first Kim and the shop owner or manager or whatever, they come out together. And he's, I don't know, consoling her. He's like, "Your mom seems like a really good person. Don't want to disappoint her."
Mm-hmm.
I think that the mom character is going to come back into play somehow. Either it's going to be some of the flashback to the past where Kim disappointed her mom or tried not to. Maybe it's her motivation to become a lawyer or something. Or maybe it's something that happens in the future. Maybe in the middle of whatever's going on with like the fallout from Howard and Lalo and Saul getting mixed up with Walt, whatever else. I wonder if in the mix of all that, Kim's mom gets sick, goes to the hospital, and Kim has to go home to take care of her. I wonder if Kim still has a strong bond with her mom, and she went back home to Nebraska to be with her mom, and that's why Saul went to Nebraska when he got vacuumed away.
Interesting.
Sure, but that's what I don't think they showed us that scene. I don't think they had that line of that manager telling Kim to not disappoint her mom for no reason.
Yeah.
They don't do anything for no reason. They didn't need to have that scene or that line. It wasn't necessary for anything else to happen in that scene. So it makes me believe it's setting something else up.
Even though when I watched it, I thought that the guy was just really attracted to the mom and liked to think that she was something that she wasn't.
That is also possible.
But
right?
yeah.
Again, they can and do have multiple meanings in every scene, and I do think that was one of them. I think that's maybe even a lesson that Kim's learning from her mom is that you can use your attractiveness to get away with things, right? We saw the mom is a hustler there. When she tries to pay for the necklace, she knew she didn't have enough money in her wallet. In fact, she might have even had enough money in her wallet, but she wasn't going to say that, right?
Yeah.
The guy's like, it's $38. She's like, oh, let me look. I only have 13.
Yeah.
She didn't think she had $38 when she dug through there. Or if she did, she wasn't going to pull out all $38.
Yeah.
So. No,
you're right. So obviously that was the intro. Now we're going to dive into the episode. I knew that the intro was going to be a big one just because, well, for one, we don't get that much of Kim's past, or in general, people's past. And Kim's such an interesting character. I mean, possibly one of the best characters in the show. I love her character. So let's see. We open up with Howard. So Howard, once again, I always pull up the what they're wearing, but he's wearing, if you're shocked, blue with a blue tie. But Howard's in a room getting dressed, kind of like they go into like detail on like what his room looks like and how he prepares the day. Then and for some reason I was like shocked by this. We meet his wife, and I was like, oh, right, he has a wife. And we already know that he's having like issues with her, and you can see it from how they're interacting. He like makes this it's coffee, right, or espresso. I'm not quite sure. It's pretty much coffee, I assume, right?
It's a fancy coffee.
Yeah.
Espresso, latte, whatever you want to call it.
But he puts extra work into making it look nice and perfect. And I think he puts the peace sign. I think that was a peace sign on it.
Yeah.
And she comes in, talks to him. We'll get into the talking in a moment, and she just gets like a mug. She pours all that, basically all the hard work, all the work he's trying to fix his marriage, I feel like. And it shows how disconnected those two are, Phil. And they like show a shot of him from the mug, of like he like notices that, and I don't know, I just couldn't help but like my heart like broke a little bit, because I was like, he's really trying to fix his life, to fix his marriage, to fix his job, to try to be to deal with this Saul issue, but not just to be an ass. I don't know. There's a lot on his plate, and I couldn't help but sympathize, almost cry for him, almost, just because his life is just falling apart, and he's trying to fix it, I feel.
Yeah.
But going into, they talk about something interesting that I didn't catch the first time. So she brings up that there's this sponsorship. Give me a second. Let me figure out exactly what was the term. For one, her name is Cheryl. Yeah, there's this fundraiser, the Abramson. But basically, there's a fundraiser that's going to happen on Friday, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to go to it? Do you want me to go to it? We could both go." Like, he's trying to like find, to connect with her. And I couldn't help but notice that. So the D-Day is Thursday, by the way. I was wondering when the D-Day was. Once he specified this, if she had said yes, she may have saved the issue. It's tricky, by the way, because it's still everything happened on Thursday.
He doesn't go to the Sandpiper meeting. He's got to go to the Sandpiper meeting.
No. But he could have, after the Sandpiper meeting, he could have went to the airport with her or got prepared.
Oh yeah, he might have gone home and packed his stuff.
Yeah,
and not
it's tricky because he may have been so frustrated he could have still went to Jimmy's house. But it makes me wonder if did her wife basically condemn him to hell. I'm not hell, but like to dying. It's tricky. But anyways, like I said, I didn't catch it the first time. I thought that was interesting because when they brought up the date, I was like, wait, what date was the D-Day? Like I had to go find out. So just interesting little details.
I wonder if that will cause his wife to not realize that he didn't come home.
Yes, I was also wondering that.
Oh, this is a good line to pursue. It's a good
call. So it's just interesting, Oh yeah, he also specifies to his wife, because he brings up, he's like, at first, he's preparing. They're talking about this fundraiser, and then he turns around, and then he's like, no, I need to tell my wife. There's an issue with Saul, or Jimmy, and she's like, and he's like, don't worry, I can handle it, and it'll be, and I'll put it into this. So bring it back up. If she doesn't realize he doesn't come home, he already specified that he's dealing with something with Saul, and he's very vague about it. He's like, like making it sound like it's like complicated and it could be possibly bad, but he's very vague. I don't know. I just found that
she's aware that it's happening, because when he brings it up, she's like, the guy with the bowling ball.
Yes,
like she knows, she's aware of this, and she's like, that's still happening. He's like, it's escalating.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Just want you to be aware. Just want you to know something fishy is going on with Jimmy. That's the thought that I've been having, is that she is someone. She's gonna make it hard. By the way, jumping ahead, super spoilers here. Close your ears for a few seconds if you're worried about knowing what happens in the next episode. But it'll be hard for them to pitch Howard's death as a suicide, because both Howard's wife and Howard's partner / friend Cliff know that something is going on with Jimmy.
Yes,
so if he shows up dead at Jimmy's place, that like it there's going to be some follow-up instigation. It's an investigation. It's going to be tough for Jimmy or Lalo or Mike or whoever to just cover this up.
Yeah, even before, I mean, obviously, spoiler, episode 7. Even when he like left Cliff like knew that he was tied in with Jimmy so much, or like something, like obviously a scheme, because he kind of like he knows the scheme to a degree. Cliff, he screwed him over. So you're right. Like if Cliff was like suicide, that's a hard pill to swallow. I feel like.
Like even if Cliff and Cheryl just accepted it, even if they're like, oh wow, he killed himself, the police are still going to interview them.
Yep.
And in the interview, they're going to say, yeah, he had some kind of beef with Jimmy, Saul, yeah, same guy.
Yep.
Well, that's where he was found dead. Really, the police are going to follow up.
Exactly.
Even if somehow Cliff and Cheryl, maybe they won't follow up much. Clearly, Saul doesn't go to jail for murder because he's in, he's an active lawyer in Breaking Bad. But I'm sure it's going to be a piece of the plot line moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Also,
this is a perfect example of elegant filmmaking. Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, also, I mean, it probably doesn't happen, but like Jimmy may leave because of this issue. Like because they start realizing that he's involved with Howard's death, but they can't.
Might leave where?
To become Gene or something like that. Like I said, it's probably not
years down the line.
It's 4 years. Is it 4 years down the line? Which
maybe even more.
I wish I knew the timeline.
Enough down the line, they wouldn't just then start to piece together this murder
Oh,
investigation.
I was thinking more
we know
proof.
He's mixed up with all kinds of stuff with Walt and the cartel and everything. That's why he leaves as Gene. I think Kim might leave if Kim takes the fall for Jimmy somehow.
Goes to jail even. Ugh.
Yeah. I can't quite piece together how that would happen. I even have a fear that Cheryl might get killed. That they might kill her to quiet her from suspicions, and we'll see. That I don't think those are likely things necessarily.
Right, but there are like threats between Cheryl, maybe even Cliff.
That it matters that she knows that something was up with Jimmy. How that plays out, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. But anyways.
In fact, I don't think it's likely. I think it's guaranteed because they wouldn't have bothered to tell us that. That's what I was about to say. This was another example of elegant filmmaking. That scene served so many purposes.
Yeah.
Without any dialogue, they don't have to spoon feed it to us. We can just see the way she just dumps out that carefully made coffee
exactly.
or thermos. They just have a cold relationship with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Howard is trying, and she is not. Like so much gets told to us.
Yep.
Those images and moments there, but it also they make a point of letting us know that Cheryl knows about the beef between Howard and Jimmy.
Yep.
And a red herring of sorts, because maybe we're just misreading it. If you're paying enough attention, I feel like we shouldn't have thought this, but we think that Jimmy's going to drug Howard to make him seem like he's on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way they showed the coffee and he has tea instead of coffee, and a lot of people were thinking that maybe he was going to react because the drug they're going to give him is kind of some kind of caffeine thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're thinking that maybe he drank tea instead of coffee because he has a heart condition. I believe on some level they were trying to mislead us with that. But even though it wasn't really misleading, because if you pay attention, the drug was topical. Like they told us that they put it on Jimmy's skin at the vet, and so they don't need to put it in a drink. But just because it doesn't go in a drink doesn't mean he won't still have a heart condition.
Exactly.
It's a good way to kind of spin our minds in a lot of different directions.
So yeah, I can't help but like love Howard scenes. Feel bad for him, the foreshadowing of what's possibly to happen to him. But the scene after he meets with his PI, and the PI shows him a whole pack of photos. He's just going through photos, and Howard's like, "What's this photo?" And you see Saul with an envelope, and it looks to be probably like 20 grand in the envelope. That is the assumption. You talked about this earlier, how like the PI was like, I'm no lawyer, but yeah,
we don't just see the envelope, but we see like stacks, or I think they at least talked about like the stacks of cash that he got from the bank.
I think so.
Estimate based on those stacks, if they were $20 bills and you had this many per stack and this many stacks, $20,000.
Like, why would you need that?
So much money.
Yeah. So obviously this is a throw Howard off in the long run, but let's just tying the pieces together. We'll go to Saul and Kim. Saul's in gray, Kim's in blue. They're at a vet. We already talked about this, about the vet has green gloves. And you get to know more of the scheme. Pretty much, the vet gives Saul some drug that makes his eyes widen or his pupils dilated. And obviously that's to make it look like Howard's on drugs. It's like a symptom or
side effect.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Yeah.
They also say it's going to feel like drinking 2 Red Bulls, which is like going to make you antsy and energetic and jittery, maybe, which will add to making it seem like Howard is on some kind of narcotic.
Yeah. They also bring up in the scene the Black Book. Which, didn't you say that they found the Black Book in the house, in Gene's house or Saul's house?
Yeah, and not Gene's house, in Saul's house.
Saul's house,
the opening sequence when they're clearing out the mansion, which is Saul's mansion from Breaking Bad time period. There's all kinds of things they find in there that we've seen throughout the course of the show, but one of which was that Black Book with that kind of coded writing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it had
writing. Look at it and put it into I think they put it into a box that's labeled worthless or something like that. Ironic, just to know when we have an idea what that thing actually is.
So for us as the audience who's seen Breaking Bad, there's also a callback. There's a vacuum store card inside, and that's the store that basically Saul goes to become Gene in the long run.
Walt goes there to get shipped off to New Hampshire. Jesse was gonna go to Alaska, but he bailed on that.
He winds up going to Alaska in the long run, I think. But yeah,
what?
I think he does wind up going to Alaska in the long run, though. Right? I'm pretty sure that's the ending cut thing for Jesse. I thought he met him again. Anyways, it is a.
if he goes, it's in El Camino. They made a movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the last we see of Jesse in Breaking Bad is him escaping that gang.
No, this is in El Camino. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, this is definitely in El Camino.
Camino, he might have gone to Alaska. I don't quite remember.
But anyways, that is Breaking Bad storyline. But yeah,
speculate that characters that are in. Let me say this real quick because I think this is important.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out characters that are in Better Call Saul and not in Breaking Bad generates a lot of speculation. Some are starting to get solved, like Nacho and Howard got killed, right? But Kim's still around. And a lot of people think that she might get vacuumed away. This vacuum guy it's basically like witness protection outside of the police, right? I strongly believe that that's not going to happen to Kim. I think, one, that the idea that Kim is not in Breaking Bad doesn't necessarily mean that she's been vacuumed away or that she's dead or that she's in prison. It could mean, though anything could be true, but there's not one reason to believe one over the other. Like, just because she's not there doesn't mean it must be one of those things.
Yeah.
It might not be any of those things. She might still just be doing pro bono work with Cliff. She might still just be living with Jimmy. I don't even know if those are likely, but I'm just saying that just because she's not there doesn't mean, just because we don't see her on screen doesn't mean she's not there. For example, Cheryl. I don't even know if they meant us to get this point, but another point that is conveyed by showing us Cheryl is that we went through 5 seasons of Better Call Saul without seeing Howard's wife.
That's
and
true.
Howard was more of a main character in Better Call Saul than Jimmy was in Breaking Bad. So if we can go through 5 seasons of Better Call Saul without seeing Cheryl, we can go through 4 seasons of Breaking Bad without seeing Kim. It doesn't mean she's not there.
Exactly.
So that's one reason I don't assume that she gets vacuumed, because she might be in jail, she might be in prison, she might just be doing her job. And on top of that, I feel like it's a little bit of a writing crutch. I think it's a little bit of like a cop-out for the writers to
kill off everyone,
resolve a character by having them disappear from the vacuum guy. Like, Does that make sense? I think it's
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
think it's
absolutely.
a way to not have to deal with the repercussions of them leaving or the reasons behind it or the impact of it. It's kind of a little bit of a cheat. And even when they did it in Breaking Bad, we still get more after that. We still
Hmm.
what see what happens to Walt. Saul gets his own TV show. Jesse doesn't end up going. Like, it's not that simple.
Yeah,
And they've already used that device 3 times. I don't think they're gonna do it again. I just
yeah.
don't think they're doing it. On top of all that, the actor that played that guy is dead. Now they don't need him. They could do a phone conversation. They could splice stuff
Oh, I didn't
together,
know that.
reference it. But it is just one more obstacle that that actor's dead, so they can't get too into it, even if they decide to do
Right,
that.
they would
But
have to like
anyway,
do a
for a
double of
bunch of
him.
reasons, I just don't think that's something that's going to happen. Keep in mind, right now,
Gets sent to the
they don't
shadow
even know
realm.
that guy exists. What's that?
Streamer was like, that character just got sent to the shadow realm.
Yeah. Right now, they don't know what that vacuum card means. They don't. It's just a vacuum guy as far as they're concerned. Like, they would have to like get the black book, learn what the vacuum guy means. They've got freaking a dead body on the floor right now.
Yeah,
There's so much more that has to happen in these short few episodes. I don't think that's where they're going
yeah.
with Kim's plotline. So,
Um, no, I think you're right. I do have a
but
theory, but that it's going to come up with Lalo. We'll talk about that in a moment. Lalo's
real
seen
quick,
this episode.
I did want to point out a couple of things that were key to this scene. Was Kim relating to the vet who said he wanted to just get out of all
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
underworld shady business and just do the stuff with the pets? And Kim was like, yeah, he knows what he wants. Like, Saul
Hmm.
thought it was crazy that he would give up all the money he could make with his contacts.
Yep.
But Kim just gave up all the money she was making as a lawyer for Mesa Verde to do this pro bono work.
Yep.
Like,
Things you actually love. Yeah.
yeah, so I
No,
think
you're
that
right.
was an interesting reminder that fundamentally she's trying to be a good person or do a good thing, even if she is justifying, she has this sort of end justifies the means plan against Howard, but she still has good intentions overall.
Yeah.
And we do see her mostly in blue, even still.
Yeah.
Also, the vet's office, not just his gloves were green that would protect him from the drug that he's given Jimmy, but his whole office was green. Just the lighting of the whole place was cast in green because the whole office is a front for a business separate from vet work.
Yeah. So the next scene with Kim, she's doing one of her trials, protecting the small people, and Cliff comes and just watches. And after that, for one, it's neat to see Kim like just defend people because she's amazing. But Cliff says that it'd be great for that foundation I was talking about, which I think he brought up a little earlier in the episodes.
It was when she was having a meeting with
Yes,
him.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I
And
thought.
the intent was just for him to witness the whole thing with Saul and looking like Howard and Wendy and all that. But also, he brought up a legit business proposition for
Yeah,
her. So
and this is called the Jackson Mercer Foundation, and it's something that she's been striving to do. It's just bigger, and Cliff just wants her to be there, to be part of it. And obviously she's excited about it. She's scared though, just because well, she knows in the back of her head she has to do this thing with Saul, Jimmy. But then we get the next scene where she visits Saul at the business, and this is where I say you see the colors, like the Francesca remodeled the place, and there's green all over. It's really nice looking, honestly, from what it looked like. Pretty much a shit place, to this really nice, elegant place. But behind the walls, they're doing the more of the Howard scheme, where a guy's dressing up as the Judge Casimiro. They're trying to figure out like the mustache, because they're hiring an actor, and they have a film crew. He's used this film crew in the past. The kind of a, I don't want to say sleazy, but like just they're like independent filmmakers, I guess is the best way to put it. But I feel like they sometimes do it just for the money. Well, the camera guy does, not necessarily the makeup girl. I think the makeup girl just likes doing it.
they have different
Motivations, I feel.
motivations or whatever. Yeah, like, I wouldn't necessarily say they're sleazy, but they're 2-bit maybe
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
maybe
that's a better word.
hustlers like Jimmy on some level. They're yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely. It feels like a crew of Jimmy. To say that. But we get to see that they're doing the next part of this big plan that they're trying to do against Howard. And him even has more input. It's interesting how like Saul's like I feel like he's like always like agreeing or taking the advice of Kim, because like people are giving him advice on the beard, or I'm sorry, mustache, on what mustache this guy should have. And Kim goes over and she's like, that one, and Saul's like, yes, that one. Like he's always on her side.
It shows that she is clearly taking part in this process.
Yes.
Taking the lead, even. That Saul is going along with decisions that she makes.
Mm-hmm. But that pretty much ends that scene. Let's see. Sorry, let's see. Where am I? There's a couple of things. There's a lot of stuff with Saul and Kim. Actually, pretty much this whole episode's with them, other than a little bit of Lalo and a little bit of Mike.
I want to take a chance to point out a little bit of comic relief there, because the show a lot of times can be very intense dramatically or even with action sometimes, but they get a lot of good comic relief when they're prepping that guy to be the judge. And they just need to get pictures of him looking like the judge getting a package from Saul, but this guy is taking it like maybe a little too seriously. He was like, what's my character's motivation, and Saul's like, you don't need motivation, just put it on the mustache, like be normal, and like, and the makeup girl is like, getting a mustache on and prepping him for the shot or whatever, and she's like, you're doing a really good job, and he's like, I am, aren't I?
Okay, so let's see mustache. Kim tells Saul that Cliff invited her to. Okay, so the next scene is she basically pulls him outside of that room, basically to the main room where no one could hear. And she's like, they're talking about that she got, she could be part of a foundation, the Jackson Foundation. But it falls on D-Day. And I love how Saul, like, he's so supportive of Kim. And he really does want what's best for Kim. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Go do your thing, because I know this is going to make you happy and everything will be fine. So the relationship's so good, at least right now, and it shows, which is kind of the opposite of Howard and his wife, which is sad, like the contrast to them. But
again, this is good, elegant storytelling. It shows that Kim has this other option. She has this other legit, viable path to take. It's what she kind of wants in the first place.
Yep.
And Jimmy's encouraging that. Jimmy is almost reluctantly going along. Like once they've divin in, they've jumped into the pool head first at this point. But this is much more Jimmy going along with Kim, and we see that Kim even has this other option to take, and he's encouraging her to, so setting up how things are going even more so.
So the scene ends with them kissing. I remember the first time I saw this was so weird, the transition. Like it caught me off guard, it threw me off, and I wonder if it was deliberate. But basically, do you remember what happened after this, what they cut to?
I don't.
So they kiss, and then an axe goes off and hits the
oh, that's right, yeah.
And I couldn't help to wonder if that was foreshadow. Why did they do that transition like that? Like I said, it was so jarring and like painful almost. Were they trying to imply that the relationship's going to be axed, that someone's going to be axed? I don't know. I may be thinking too much into that, but also I don't think they do things on accident. I wonder if there's more to that.
On accident.
Yeah. So, but we're gonna jump into Lalo really fast because he has a small little scene. So he's dressed in blue, which I couldn't figure out why he was dressed in blue.
By the way, sorry, this might be a little crude, but I wonder if it might be like splitting the logs, chopping, separating with the axe. Might be like if they're gonna have sex, like spreading her legs to have, if they were implying they had sex after that.
Yeah, well, that that is true. Or that the relationship just they're gonna have two different paths. You know.
Yeah.
But anyways, Lalo comes up and meets this guy who's chopping axe. I called him Axeman, but then the guy's actual name is Casper. And Casper worked for Warner. He was one of the men, one of the boys. Yeah. And you know, this guy has an axe. Like Casper has an axe. We see he's like using it really well. You know, he's pretty built. Lalo just goes up to him like, "Hey,"
and he's in blue.
And he's in blue, which that's why I was like intrigued why they chose blue for him. But Casper runs and he goes under his shed, and Lalo follows. And eventually the guy, you know, Lalo catches up to him, and Casper just nails him in the back, or with the back part of the axe, and breaks like Lalo's ribs or something. And then Lalo shows him
I wanted to clarify. When I said he's in blue, I meant Casper was in blue.
Casper also is in blue, by the way. They're both in blue.
Yeah. I think that, and I wish I could remember a little more clearly, because I don't think that Lalo was in like...
Okay, he's in a black jacket with blue shirt and blue jeans, while Casper's in a blue sweater, dark blue sweater, and blue jeans.
I think that... Especially, here's the thing. Sometimes the colors can be tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of characters have their role or their intention, their motivations or whatever aren't simple. They're not black and white or blue and red, if you will. In fact, a lot of times we see Saul wearing like a blue jacket and a pink tie, or, you know, even maybe a blue jacket and a blue tie with red stripes. Like there's some conflict, there's some swirl, some mixing up in there. And I think that so for another example, I brought this up a few times, but early on in the series, I think the second episode, Tuco is being wild and crazy. He wants to kill those skateboarders. Yeah. And he's in red, right? Yeah. And Nacho shows up to be kind of the level head, to try to calm things down, stop a murder from happening. He's in blue. And Nacho is wearing blue. He's relatively good compared to Tuco in that moment. Later on, when Nacho's like threatening Mike or threatening Daniel, he's wearing red. So they can use it in a sort of relative way. Does that make sense? And I think, at least right now, on some level, Lalo is a good guy, a protagonist. He's trying to figure out who tried to kill him. Someone attacked me in my home and killed my loved ones?
That's true.
Even if he's a bad guy, in this moment, he's on a understandably good guy mission. Does that make sense? And when you think about who was it that did that? Gus. Gus is a bad guy, right? Lalo going up against Gus kind of makes him a good guy, you know? Right. Now, Lalo going up against Casper kind of makes him a bad guy. But Lalo doesn't necessarily know that Casper and these German guys were in the dark. They know... Lalo knows these guys are working for Gus. Gus is a bad guy. Gus is working against the cartel. Gus tried to have me killed. Gus killed my people in my home. Like, so on some level, he is... I can see how they cast him in the protagonist positive role. Does that make sense? I think that's why he's in blue here.
That makes sense.
We don't want Gus. We don't want Lalo to get killed at this moment.
Yes, that's true.
We don't necessarily want Casper to get killed in this moment either.
Yeah.
But Lalo isn't a clear bad guy when he shows up.
This is kind of the bad good character. Yes, he is.
If you think about how it ends up going down, if they could have gotten to talk first, Casper might have been like, I'll tell you all about Gus. Screw that guy. He had Werner killed, and Werner was my friend, right? But they start off with this immediate conflict, and they don't get to have that. But it's possible if they could have talked calmly, Casper wouldn't have been happy to help Lalo out.
Yeah, I actually did think that Lalo's not there to kill Casper. He's just there to get information. And if that was... And what helps prove that is he didn't kill Margaret. He could have killed her. He didn't. So I don't think he's on a mission to kill this guy. He's just on a mission to get information. You're right. Makes sense.
And from Margaret,
with bad intentions on the
talking to
inside.
her, when talking to her, it was clear. It was
Sorry,
clear
Tom.
that it's okay. Is there something? Should I?
He said an awkwardly good character with bad intentions on the inside. Blue suit with a pink tie. Yeah, that had been, yes.
What was I saying? From Lalo's perspective, Gus is a bad guy. These Germans were working for Gus.
Mm-hmm.
He finds Gus's wife, and what does she say? Oh, I don't know about his business. He worked for the boys. They loved him. Oh, this paperwork from his funeral. I don't know. She clearly wasn't in on whatever was happening. She wasn't a bad guy. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so that he has even less motivation to kill her. Casper, he was there. He was working for Gus. Like, it makes sense for Lalo to more assume that Casper is a bad guy. We know that he's not, right?
Yeah.
But we see that Lalo might assume that. And Casper knows that he was working for some bad guy and his life has been threatened, and so here comes this guy. Like, we could see why he might assume Lalo is a bad guy. So they start off on the wrong foot. Start and end off on the wrong foot.
So obviously Casper breaks potentially one of Lalo's ribs. Lalo's on the floor, and this is when I realized that it wasn't the name, the N Libre or whatever. It was the Volkers. He holds up a card, which I assume is Casper's lumber company. That's the only thing I can think of. But he holds that card up, and Casper looks down at it. He's like, "Oh." But right behind the card was a blade. I didn't catch this also the first time. And he cuts him.
Yeah, like a little razor blade behind the card that he's showing.
Yeah.
So he has to lean in to see it, and then he slashes out with a blade behind it.
But I mean, this guy clearly could kill him. So his life is, potentially being threatened. So it makes sense why, he's defending himself. And then he takes the axe and cuts off his leg, which I was like, like, geez. And then they have a conversation. He's like, tie up your leg with my belt. We're going to have a talk. And we don't know anything else. Like, we don't know if Casper dies. We assume he dies, but maybe he doesn't. But we do know that he gets information. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he dies. I don't see why he would live. But anyways, so, that they end at, with Lalo trying to get information from Casper. There's a scene with Mike. And also this scene I forgot about the scene. So Mike is in the laundry building, like the building where the laboratory is supposed to be. And Tyrese comes over and they have a conversation. Tyrese is like, Tyrese. Tyrese is wondering, basically trying to tell him where to put his men. And Mike's like, if the boss has, basically Gus has a problem with it, I'll talk to him or he'll tell me. But if you have a problem with it, let's just deal with it right now because I'm not moving my men anywhere where you tell me to. And they bring up this street. So we talked about this, how Mike has his men all over the place, and he they're working like 18 hours, and they have so little resources. And he has at least one or two men at the street. Elamiter. I'm pronouncing this wrong probably, but anyways, Alamiter.
Alligator?
Yeah, that's why I'm like.
Anyway.
But anyways, he brings up that street, and I was like, "Wait, what street is that? Is that the Jimmy Street? Like, is that where Jimmy's house is?" But he says, I don't need people at my place. I need people at this place. The next scene, you see the street, and it's his daughter-in-law.
And his granddaughter.
Yeah. And I was like, oh. He says, and he also talked about this with Tyrus. He's like, if there's a small, 1% chance that they could get hit, I need my men there, basically. It's just a long shot. It's most likely Lalo's not going to do it. Which makes me wonder, by the way, this is a prediction. I'm wondering if Lalo's going to somehow find out about that. Because they may not even. Yeah.
You may even already know. I don't know if that's likely, but here's one thing we know is they're still alive and Breaking Bad.
Yeah. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a conflict.
Yeah.
And
It's also, by the way, it goes back to a point I was making about when Nacho gets killed,
Mhm.
is that remember how Mike said do it, and you're thinking maybe a lot of people thought that maybe Mike wanted Nacho to like try to kill those people around. He would kill people from a distance and da da da. But the problem is that in the same way that Nacho's family will be in trouble if this meeting doesn't go down just right,
Mhm.
Mike's family will be in trouble too. If
Mhm.
Mike, he did not Mike did not want that meeting to go chaotically and for a war to start because his family would be in trouble.
Yeah.
And this is like kind of confirmation of that here. He recognizes that his family is not safe.
Yeah. And they have like a nice little scene where he's talking to his daughter, and his daughter's talking about the stars. Like they bring up Leo the lion is like some star, and Jupiter they talk about too. I don't know if there's any symbolism in that, by the way. Try to do research on Leo the lion. I couldn't find anything.
I'm not sure either. I would just guess that those were easy things to find for a kid with a telescope.
I was thinking that too.
But it makes sense there would be some other meaning to them.
Which also it brings into my speculation of I wonder if they're going to be in danger more so. Like I said, we know that they're fine in Breaking Bad, but doesn't mean that there won't be an intense situation with them.
I bet even if it didn't have some meaning, what they saw in the sky, it might not have had some particular, double meaning to us.
Yeah.
But I bet that it was the correct items in the sky for the time period this is supposed to be.
Ooh.
I bet they did enough research to not say the wrong constellation for like the year and month or whatever it is, the time of night and everything. I bet anything it got that right. Just like they make sure that there aren't any quarters from before 2004 or whatever. Whenever that comes up.
No,
like
you may be absolutely
probably
right.
No one would ever notice, but they probably still get that right.
Now we're gonna go back to Jim and Kim. Jimmy and Kim. Let's see, where were we with so basically Cliff, we talked about the Cliff thing. Running place. No. Kim was looking at the mustache on the right. Sorry, I'm just looking at all the things. My little notes. You can say something if you want, like something random while I'm trying to get thoughts together. Oh no, okay, there we are, the axe. Francesca is wearing a blue shirt. Okay, so this is a scene where they need to get confirmation or the conference call ID or number for when Howard is talking or is in a meeting, I guess is the word.
On D-Day, what D-Day is the meeting with all the Sandpiper clients and lawyers, and Judge Casimiro is going to be the mediator. Everyone that's involved with it is going to be on having this meeting on D-Day, and that's when they want to embarrass Howard by making him look like he's on drugs.
Yeah,
and all the other stuff tied to that. And some of the people in this meeting are calling in. It's like a conference call. They're not all going to be, because it's probably like, I don't know, dozens, if not hundreds of people involved.
Mm-hmm.
They can't all fit in the same room. So there's going to be a conference call that people can call into and overhear the discussion. And Saul wants to hear it. Kim wants to hear it too. But remember when she wanted to go to the meeting that Cliff had set up for the pro bono agency they're setting up or whatever. Kim doesn't need to be there for the plan to go down. She was going to get to listen in on it, but now she won't get to. But Saul says, hey, I'll record it. We can listen to it later. But anyway, they need to get the number for this.
Exactly. And he makes...
So Jimmy's getting Francesca to make this call to pretend like she's like a relative of someone in a case or whatever. And it's kind of shady. It's kind of like...
Oh, yeah.
It's a lie. If it's not illegal, it's definitely, she's got a lie to do this.
I like how she was like, isn't this illegal? He's like, I'm the lawyer.
Yeah. And I think it's really telling that in this scene, she was wearing generally a blue shirt.
Yeah. It was like blue and white.
Little swirls of pink and orange in it.
Oh, yeah.
She's kind of being pushed into doing something wrong. Kind of like young Kim. She's basically good, but she's getting drawn into this dark side.
Mm-hmm. Also, this is a scene that went over my head. Obviously, like it was like fun interaction with Saul and Francesca, but I didn't know what was going on, the details, until the next episode. But the next scene is they're in the kitchen cleaning up, and they look at the plans. So behind their painting, they have a plan set out for the Howard scheme or Howard plan, and they have like 9 different, basically objectives they have to do, and the last objective is D-Day. And it, before the scene, before episode 7, you can probably figure out what each of those schemes are, because like some of them are the eyes widening, or the camera shooting,
possibly, definitely, if I may, to my own horn.
Oh yeah, you definitely did.
Pieced it all together, yeah. But to be fair, I spent hours and hours thinking about it and rewatching it, and I don't think the average viewer would piece it together at all.
No.
I don't think I would have pieced it together if I hadn't put extensive effort into it.
And we'll talk about that next week, this actual plan, because the plan goes into effect next week. Well, I mean next week, in episode 7, which we'll be talking about next week. But it is really cool just to look at. It's like a mystery, you're like, how are they going to do it, or how did they do it? Did they actually do that step? But
yeah, I feel like this season was like a puzzle that they just dumped out on the table, and it picked up a few pieces and showed it to us, and then set those aside and picked up a few more pieces and showed it to us and set it aside. And we're like, especially when there's like so many different pieces going on, like imagine a puzzle is like a truck on a dirt road with the mountains behind it and the night sky. So sometimes the pieces of the puzzle they show us is like a wheel and a windshield and a mirror and a license plate. We're like, oh, it's a car. And then they show us like the moon and some stars and some blackness, and we're like, it's the sky. And then the next piece they show us like a road and some trees and stuff. And I'm like, is this all the same puzzle? I don't understand. And in episode 7, they like put it all together and like, oh, now I get it.
Yes.
But it's really hard individually to understand what all those different pieces
Right.
were and how they fit together.
Like the Francesca thing, like that went over my head.
You're like, oh, of course, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Now, obviously, when we first watched it, the most significant thing I think about the scene or about the poster was D-Day. You saw T1. And they crossed that out, but D-Day was coming up, which obviously was the next, like, tomorrow or something like that. But you're like, what the hell's D-Day? I mean, for one, D-Day is not a good day. Or was it?
Yes.
Like, it has symbolicness to it. Which, if you want to go into detail of what D-Day was.
Yeah, historically, D-Day was the day of the invasion in World War II. To finish off the Nazis, we got to get tanks and troops marching across Europe, right? And Germany has a lot of defenses. They have all these, sea bases and cannons and airplanes, and the war's been going on for years. They have this huge military. They're prepared for this, and so the Allied forces had to get. It was one of the most involved operations of all time, and it was more ships and people and planes and coordination of nations to get all the forces landed and in motion towards Germany. And it was D-Day was what that invasion was called. And it's one of the most historical moments of World War II, which is one of the most historical moments of world history.
Yeah.
And lots of people died. A lot of people died.
And that was like the thing that hit, I thought. I was like, that's the day that Howard's probably going to die. Like it just felt like they foreshadowed it so much, and they're like, D-Day's not a good day. Something bad's going to happen.
D-Day, and the more they get us to know Howard better and to feel empathy for him, the more they're doing that because they're building up the tragedy.
Yes.
Yeah. And you also kind of know that it just makes sense that it's something worse than what Jimmy and Kim think is gonna happen. They have this plan, and it's all I was gonna say it's all in good fun. It's mostly in good fun. Like, it is mean to Howard, but they're not trying to kill him or chop his finger off. They're not necessarily trying to ruin his wedding. They might hurt his career. They think that that's the worst that's going to happen is that his ego and his career will be set back, but he's already so wealthy and successful. Even a setback won't be that bad for him. You know,
Exactly.
that's part of how they're justifying it in their mind, and they're having fun with this game. Their ability to plot out this scheme, to manipulate people along the way, to they're feeling good about themselves,
Oh yeah.
and you just know it's not gonna actually be good. Like
Yep.
there's no way that's how they're gonna lead this. So like, and they tricked Howard, and everyone lived happily ever after, and that's how. And now next up, Breaking Bad. Like it's not gonna be that simple and happy.
They decide to celebrate their victory by going to the HHM building and have a picnic right outside at dark. And then the next day, Kim gets up and makes her way toward the foundation, the Jackson Foundation. And so it's ready to celebrate by getting the Zafiro wine and basically go and participate. What's that?
It's a tequila, not a wine.
Oh, it's a tequila. Okay, yeah. Tequila. And this is also a very expensive wine. Like I'm sorry, tequila or alcoholic beverage. It's like $450. Like they say, yeah, this is expensive. He's like, yeah, I know, it's really good. It's worth every penny. Because he's proud. Him and Kim achieved their victory, basically.
When they get $1 million from the Sandpiper settlement, 400 bottle of tequila, it doesn't seem that expensive.
Exactly. And he's sitting in line, and who does he see? The judge, the real Judge Casimiro, with a broken arm, and he freaks out. He's all mad. He gets, he's like, I can't believe. He's like, at least I saw it beforehand, And he calls Kim up, and Kim's like, no, we're doing this. She turns around and forgets her foundation to finish this plot, and it cuts there.
There was some really good irony too, because as she's driving in the car, she's like rehearsing her speech, and she's saying something along the lines of like, what we're trying to do is form a justice system that can help everyone, and what would be more valuable than that? Oh yeah, okay, I got something more valuable. Like, it was like a rhetorical question, but there was an answer: money and revenge. That's what's funny. More valuable than a justice system that's good for everyone.
So another thing to point out is Cliff was supposed to be at this meeting, right?
I don't know if he was supposed to be at that meeting. I think he set up the meeting, but I don't think he was supposed to be.
But there. Her not showing up, and he knows that Jim and Kim are involved in the Howard thing. I'm curious on how that's going to play out.
I don't think he knows Kim's involved. It's a safe assumption that she might be, because they're married. They had they work together.
He did bring up Kim. He's like, who was at the meeting? And he's like, Kim. Maybe he went to piece it together.
He might be starting to piece it together.
Yeah.
But remember, they even had a scene where he's talking to Kim, and she tells him something along the lines of like, I owe a lot to HHM. I owe a lot to Howard. And I think she's saying, I think on some level she knows that's true. Yeah. But I think she's saying that because she wants to keep Cliff from being suspicious of her.
Yeah. But you have to, even if he's not suspicious, if
he's going to be now.
He's going to be like, why didn't you make it? How is she going to answer that? It's going to determine a lot of things, I feel. And she can't, like, how could she answer that? Like, I went home to plan Howard's thing, and then he died. Obviously, she won't say that, but
she could say, I had a flat tire. My alarm didn't go off. I got too anxious. She could easily come up with an excuse.
Hopefully, yeah.
But no excuse will keep Cliff from being suspicious.
Yeah. Also, I don't know what mindset she'll be in once, now knowing that the resolution, Howard's fate. Like, will she be able to basically think properly? Will she feel too guilty? Also, will she even have time to talk to somebody? I don't know, like, how they left it off, like next episode, they go to the grocery store and they go back to their normal lives, they're probably not going to, like, everything's going to change here from here. So, but yeah, anyways.
They have made Kim out to be cool under pressure. Remember when Lalo came into the apartment, she kind of stepped up and told Lalo off. And, there have been a few moments where she was in a tough spot, but was quick on her feet and kept her cool. And so it doesn't mean that when she goes to bed that night, she can't sleep over the guilt that she has. But in the heat of the moment, she might be able to say the right
You're
thing
probably right.
to
Yeah.
Cliff or the cops or whoever else. But I also, even after the result of one conversation, it doesn't mean everything is resolved and won't have to be dealt with many more times before it's
I feel like
if ever fully resolved.
The loose ends we talked about are Cliff and the wife, Cheryl. Like they're like things that we don't know how they're gonna play out, with them. Anyways, that ends the discussion of episode 5 and 6, and we're going to be hitting 7 next week, the mid-season finale. And again, it will be starting up on July 11th for episode 8 on to episode 13. So we still have a decent amount. Like, what is that, 6 episodes? If I'm correct. So.
And I think they're going to be a little longer than average too. I don't know if that's exactly been announced, but I feel like I saw episode lengths and that they were, so far they've been averaging around, I don't know, 47 minutes or something like that. But I think that the future ones are going to be averaging over 50 minutes or something.
Ooh. So yeah, this stuff to look forward to. But yeah, we'll be discussing that. Maybe get more of our predictions concrete of what's to come in episode 8 and on next week. But thank you all for watching. Do you have anything else to say, Sean, before we leave?
Maybe follow me on Twitter and YouTube at DancingSean.
Yes.
And we do a rewatch. That's one thing I would say to people is like, watch any old episode. I feel like any episode you watch from the past, you will like come away from like, whoa, I didn't notice that. Whoa, I never noticed that. And especially if you're like looking out for how they use colors, you'll just get all new layers of appreciation. You'll realize how much care they're putting into all the filmmaking, how many clues there are to how things are gonna go, et cetera, et cetera. It's the show is very rich and very deep, and I think it's very worth rewatching.
Awesome. Well, that will conclude today. You all have a good night. Bye-bye.